First full week of Russia's invasion of Ukraine ended with Moscow's forces still struggling to overcome Ukrainian resistance in Kyiv, Kharkiv, and a host of other major population centres. Scores of civilians have fled, scores have been killed by a Russian onslaught that the US, NATO and independent observers say has included the use of banned munitions. NATO's Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg warned that the weekend and the days after it will see a substantial escalation by the Russians.
The days to come are likely to be worse, with more death, more suffering, and more destruction.
In the centre of Tbilisi, the capital of Georgia, thousands of people thronged the streets on Friday night to express solidarity with Ukraine and hear an address from President Volodymyr Zelensky connected from Kyiv by video link.
I would like to call upon you not to be silent. I would like you to come out on the streets and support Ukraine. Support our efforts and support our fight.
The week saw the Western sanctions net tighten around the Kremlin. Trading on the Moscow Stock Exchange was suspended. The ruble collapsed. More figures in Vladimir Putin's inner circle joined the Russian leader and members of his National Security Council in being sanctioned. The US says it plans to freeze and seize the assets of Russia's wealthiest Kremlin supporters. And at his State of the Union address on Tuesday, President Biden said Putin underestimated the strength of Ukrainian resolve and Western unity.
He thought he could roll into Ukraine and the world would roll over. Instead, he met with a wall of strength he never anticipated or imagined. He met the Ukrainian people.
The scenes all week long from Ukraine have been heartbreaking. Blocks of flats and hospitals targeted by the Russians. Children killed. On Thursday night, the largest nuclear power plant in Europe shelled. Moscow falsely blamed Ukrainian saboteurs for that assault. But while Vladimir Putin has been further restricting free speech inside Russia, his propaganda outlets internationally have been challenged. RT America, the Washington-based Kremlin propaganda channel, closed its doors this week, unable to access financing from Moscow.
What factor we're looking at here is the impact on the gas pump for Americans.
That's White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki fielding questions this week about why America is still buying Russian oil. President Biden is under pressure to change that and may do so in the coming week. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. Russia's invasion of Ukraine will continue to weigh on US markets in the coming week. With the preview, FSN's Nick Harper.
The bright spot on Friday, the release of the better-than-expected monthly jobs report, did little to cheer investors. 678,000 jobs were added, and the unemployment rate dipped to 3.8%. But the ongoing conflict in Ukraine continued to worry traders, a trend that's expected to continue through this coming week. But there are signs, however, that 40-year high inflation may be beginning to cool somewhat, but not enough to deter the US Federal Reserve from raising interest rates at its meeting on the 15th and 16th of this month.
The world of cricket is mourning one of the sport's greatest stars. Shane Warne died of a suspected heart attack on Friday while on holiday in Thailand. The Australian is widely recognised as one of the best spin bowlers of all time. Vic Marks is a former England and Somerset cricketer and paid tribute to Warne's career.
Warne, the bowler, was the best I've ever seen, the best slow bowler I've ever seen. And of course, he was on the field. He was one of the great kidologists as well. He was a genius anyway, but he got inside people's minds. Yeah. He tormented them with a look, the odd word. You know, I'm in charge here, and it's only a matter of time before you go. He would get under their skin.
Shane Warne was just 52. In the coming week, we'll continue reporting every turn in the Ukraine crisis, but for the first time in 30 years, not from our bureau in Moscow. We have, like many other broadcasters, temporarily suspended operations there after President Putin signed a new law imposing reporting restrictions from the country. Our brave and courageous Moscow team will be back on the air very soon, here and on our affiliated broadcast networks worldwide. And that is the Week in Review from Feature Story News. Simon Marks reporting.
as Sao Paulo struggled to dig out after last week's devastating earthquake.
I'm just praying. I'm just praying and helping.
One group was left with no one to care for them.
There is nowhere for these homeless dogs to go. There is no food to give them. There is no clean water. These dogs are going to starve to death.
I have to do the humane thing. I have to put these dogs down.
O'Brady Shaw is the only journalist compassionate enough to do what has to be done.
Put down 50 or 60 dogs today. I didn't want to.
Let me help you!
But their fate would have been much worse if I hadn't done it.
It's better this way.
O'Brady Shaw goes where other reporters won't and does the jobs other reporters can't.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Gut Check with O'Brady Shaw. Live from Sao Paulo, tomorrow night, only on the Onion News Network. Free Talk Live.
Captain's log, stardate 03062022.
Wait, you did that last night?
I did. I nearly did my Sunday routine on Saturday, and then I explained how I do my Sunday routine on Saturday. And so if you tuned in last night, this might all sound familiar to you. And I actually did a call out to you, and you obviously listened to the show.
I did.
Last night's
part of
show.
it,
At least, yeah. Well, at least that part, anyway. But you hurriedly, before the show just began, made me click on a thing. Got me to.
I suggested you click on the piece of show prep that I bought that didn't generate a preview, because although you've already named the show,
you want to talk turkey.
This was an important question that needs to be asked.
And I don't mean turkey the country.
No.
I mean turkey.
Gobble gobble.
Gobble gobble.
We don't have to leave with that. I didn't suggest it.
I mean, hey.
It's open.
Okay,
so
it's in front of me. You got me to do it hurriedly, so it must be super important.
Goodness. This is going to be such a letdown all of a sudden.
A California mail carrier allegedly beat a turkey to death.
This is the important question.
Was it self-defense?
Can I? Okay. I feel like I need to interject here because my mother delivers mail, and she has almost had it out with turkeys before.
Okay.
Especially...
Had it out?
Yeah.
Like
physical...
I'm going to put you in my oven, turkey.
Man versus turkey.
She's a vegetarian, but physical altercation for self-defense.
Is that just calling one of the customers a jive turkey?
No, real live turkeys.
Okay.
So...
Not real jive turkeys, real live turkeys.
Okay.
So
I almost hit a wild turkey on the freeway because it was like casually crossing the on-ramp.
They don't care.
They don't care. It looked at me like, you're going to stop because I'm not going to get hit.
I just want to give a shout out to all of the drunken people who bring a bottle of wild turkey to Thanksgiving every year.
Nice.
Just a shout out. So what was this?
So
this is believable all of a sudden.
So they were crossing the road, right? So my mom's like,
wait, why did the turkey cross the road? Because it was stapled to the chicken.
Oh.
No. Okay. Go ahead.
So it's like a family of turkeys crossing the road. So she's like, I'm gonna get out and ask them kindly, can you please get out of the road?
You were in the car there, like your mother told you?
No, this is the story she told me.
Okay.
So they had babies with them, which kind of, don't approach women with children, like female animals with children, like you'll get mauled.
I would never
mama
date
bear syndrome, right? Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, the mama bear thing. Yeah. So she got out of her mail truck to try to ask the turkeys to get out of the way. And
this seems like your mom is antagonizing things already. She would not get self-defense on this.
And how does that go? Actually, like, excuse me, Mr. Turkey, would you mind getting out of the way?
Or Mrs. Turkey.
I think,
Mrs. Turkey.
I think that's literally what she was trying to do, which doesn't. She learned her lesson.
Wait.
So.
I know nothing about turkeys, obviously, other than like how to carve one and roast one.
Yeah.
But
turducken.
When it comes to chickens, there's chickens and then roosters. What is it with turkeys? Is there a turkey rooster?
I don't think so. I think the females, if there's babies with them, I think the females are the aggressive ones. Because classically, like with chickens, the roosters are always aggressive. Doesn't matter. It's their job to protect the roost.
Right.
So they're just always aggressive. They'll attack you
That's why
for
they call them
no
roosters.
reason. Yeah.
Well, and that's where the phrase
exactly.
that's where the phrase "cock of the walk"
right
originates from as well.
So I'm not too sure about
But
turkeys.
is there a turkey version of a rooster?
I'm sure there has to be. We have baby turkeys.
Are all turkeys?
Yeah, there's
female?
a male turkeys. Yeah.
I know nothing. I could probably easily search this online, but I'm here doing a radio show.
But they don't cock-a-doodle-doo in the morning. No.
As far as we know.
As far as we know.
So how did this fight go down?
She had to flee back into her mail truck.
She got chased back to the mail
by
truck.
the turkey. And it's so funny. I'm only imagining now my mother just innocently walking up to the turkeys, trying to kindly ask them to get out of the road so she doesn't have to run them over, and getting chased back into her mail truck.
Your Honor, I was being very polite. I was just asking them kindly. This is totally an act of self-defense.
I assume Mom was unarmed, because I just had this vision in my head of this poor little turkey family losing their, matriarch or patriarch because your mom was armed and, decided to fire in self-defense upon the turkey who's, chasing.
Even if she was armed, she probably wouldn't. She's a huge animal rights person, so
okay. All right.
She'd probably just take it if they attacked her, honestly.
Mail carrier jumps out of the mail truck and cocks the shotgun.
Right.
Did you guys know that it is customary for when doing a talk radio show for us to mention the name of the show and also who the participants are?
Shouldn't they already
We just jumped right in.
Shouldn't they already know, though? I mean, come on.
If you've been listening for any length of time, yes. We seem to do this more on Sundays than any other day here. On Free Talk Live. There, I got it out. Free Talk Live is the show that you're listening to.
If only we had a producer in your ear telling you got to say this, Captain.
He's busy.
We have several producers, and sometimes they'll send me a message or whatever when they think, hey, this or that or the other, or, so
Marketing
and
branding, it's very important.
Yes.
Say the name of the show at least 3 times a segment.
So I think I covered that. It is Free Talk Live. Who the heck are you?
I'm Nikki.
And I'm Richie Rich.
Okay, and I am the Lord Reverend Dr. Captain Kickass.
And this is Sunday service.
It is. Church is in session. All right. No, you don't have to rise.
No, please don't. I'm comfy.
Keep laying down or sitting on your ass, whatever it is you're doing.
Your duff. Yeah. Sitting on your duff.
For those of you playing the home game, is there a Free Talk Live home game?
There will be now.
You can do a drinking game out of Free Talk Live.
It's a card game you can play at dinner with your friends.
There are drinking game rules that you can do. Whenever I say,
ooh,
you can drink. And if you choose to play this game, you are going to get drunk. Okay?
So I probably shouldn't play this game while I'm on the air. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay.
Heard.
Yeah.
Wait until
After,
you're
okay.
listening to the show.
Until okay.
If you're like, I remember that one episode, I should listen to that, and then, I'll play a drinking game. For those of you who listen on other nights when it's not the Sunday crew, when Ian is on, you can drink whenever he says the word ostensibly. It's one of his favorites. And there was, I guess Mark doesn't do the show very often, so we won't mention that.
Mark had a breathing problem at one point. Callers complained about his inhale. You breathe so loud into the microphone, Mark. Can you stop that? Mark's like, I need to breathe, people. This is just how I breathe.
You got to do the singer breathe, where you get away from the mic and then come back. Yeah.
It's called mic technique, is what it's called. It's when you're way far above and then you get much closer to the microphone, and that's what happens.
I had a friend. We did door-to-door sales, and he was a former Jehovah's Witness, so he was really good at it.
Did you ever do door sales?
No, home security. But I swear he could continue to talk and inhale while he was talking. So customers could never say anything while he was doing his spiel because there was never a pause for them to interject anything.
He sounds like a delight.
I did do, this came up at dinner earlier, I did do some telemarketing in my youth. And I am old, so one of the first telemarketing jobs I ever had was boiler room style, and that means something to some people. What it means is that you can actually smoke indoors at your desk.
Wow.
And everybody there was like,
cool.
You had to be a smoker to get hired at this place because everybody was smoking. You walked into the place and it immediately, you needed to like cut through the fog to see your way down the aisles and all that kind of stuff. So, you know what else we should do? We should tell people that this is a call-in talk radio program where you can bring up whatever you want at 603-283-6160. That's the telephone number. For those of you who do want to play the home game, call in, talk about whatever we're talking about. So what happened with the turkey? She ran back to the car, and then what?
And then I think they probably eventually left.
Okay.
Turkey gave him a nod.
But sometimes,
my way.
sometimes they will. They'll just stand in the middle of the road. You'll be honking your horn. They'll just look at you like, what are you going to do? Run me over? I might, yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever been accosted by a turkey? 603-283-6160. More Free Talk Live is coming up. It's the Sunday night edition.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
When a lunar observatory detects a radio broadcast originating from Proxima Centauri, the nations of Earth discover their first contact with an alien race may also be their last. With the Proximans facing an extinction-level disaster, Earth must choose between sending a ship on a multi-year journey or allowing nature to take its course. Saving Proxima, a hard science fiction thriller by Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson from BaneBooks.com.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it! You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
Yes, welcome back. Thank you for tuning in. It is Free Talk Live. We're a live call-in radio talk program where you can bring up whatever you want. Any subject. There's very few rules here. No cussing, no bad words, none of the George Carlin stuff.
Especially if you're like related to one of the hosts and want to correct what just happened on air in the first segment.
And also,
shout out to Mrs. Sunshine.
Yes, and also, I just love talking about your mom in general. Not your mom specifically, but
well, that doesn't make me feel very special.
The proverbial your mom. Usually, I do it in a joking fashion. Like somebody will say a couple of words, and I'll say, like your mom?
Yeah.
And then laughter will ensue.
Or fight.
I'm going to tell my mom that you're talking about other moms, and she's not going to be very happy.
Well, then your mom is much like all the other moms, just in that respect.
Well.
There you go.
Checkmate.
All right. I was looking over, I just happened to look over at the chat window. I can't respond to any of these, but I can read them occasionally. Putin wins Nobel Peace Prize for single-handedly ending the COVID crisis.
Seeing that one.
Somebody says gobblers, and somebody says, every time you hear the word crypto, take a drink. We were talking about potential drinking games. Yes, if you hear anything related to, if you hear Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Cash, any of the abbreviations, BCH, BTC, ETH, all that stuff, Monero, if you hear Monero, if you hear anything that resembles taxation is theft, right? I think you should do a shot rather than just take a swig, right? Taxation is theft.
It's a long list.
Yeah.
The only way to listen to this show is drunk.
Yeah, you should just continuously drink the entire time. Don't even worry about what we're talking about.
I was, speaking of mom stories, I have a dad story. This is my friend's dad. We were early 20s, so his dad was cool enough that he was like, hey, if you boys are going to drink, we went to like a concert or something. He's like, if y'all are going to drink after the concert, I prefer you drink here. You get as drunk as you want, plenty of room, you all can stay the night, whatever. Nice. And so we're doing just that, and we're out on the back porch playing drinking games. And so Dad shows up after, some time. And he's like, oh, what are you doing? Playing drinking games? We're like, yeah. And they're like, well, how does it work? And we teach him how it works. And he goes, so how do you know how many drinks to give away? It's like, well, whoever wins the hand gets to give away as many drinks as there are players in any way they see fit. And he's like, oh, okay, I get it. And he wins the first hand that he plays, right? And he goes, so there's, 7 of us? So that's 7 drinks? And I can give them away any way I see fit? We're like, yeah, that's right. And he's like, well, give them all to me. I win.
Legend.
He chugs his beer and walks away. He's like, well, it's a drinking game, right? The point is to drink and get drunk. I just won twice.
Nice.
So, yeah. This is Free Talk Live. The telephone number here is 603-283-6160. And let's go to your calls and thoughts. Let's start with Padraig in New Mexico. Padraig, you're on Free Talk Live.
Can you hear me okay?
I can. What's on your mind?
People drink to escape reality because reality kind of is like real weird.
I made up a saying about that. Drugs are for people who can't handle reality, but reality is for people who can't handle drugs.
I escape into video games. That's kind of like my thing.
That's number one. Number two is I'd like your listeners to put the money where their mouth is.
Okay.
I have a passport, and I'd like to go fight with the Ukrainians. If somebody gets me a plane ticket next Saturday, I'll be at the Albuquerque International Airport. I'll pick it up at the reservation desk and fly over to the Ukraine.
Wait a minute.
Why do you want to fight with the Ukrainians?
Well, why should anybody else pay for it? If it's something you want to do, shouldn't you pay for it?
Oh, I'm broke. The government gets all my money.
Oh.
I mean, he's basically a mercenary, and if you want to fight with the Ukrainians, you want to pay someone else to do it for you.
If you're streaming us in the Ukraine right now and you're looking for a mercenary, please look up Padraig in New Mexico. And you guys.
I'm just asking for a plane ticket. I'm not fighting for anything except freedom. I just need a plane ticket to get there.
I'm wondering if fighting for Ukraine against Russia would do anything for freedom.
Start local, man.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that would get us closer to freedom
I have
worldwide.
more of a question about, like, obviously an airplane, will get you there faster. But what if somebody couldn't afford? Hang on, Padraig. What if somebody couldn't afford the plane ticket, but they could get you on a boat? Would you take a boat?
Fight's going to be over by then.
Probably not.
It take a long time. I've been in the Navy. It takes a couple of days to get there. Probably about 20.
Couple days. That's not too bad.
13 hours. Boat's going to get you there in 3 days.
Yeah, or longer.
Yeah, so maybe the fighting won't be over by then.
Yeah, you have at least 15 years.
Well,
right?
there you go. Padraig needs a plane ticket to go fight in the Ukraine. Thanks for the call, Padraig. We appreciate it. Let's move right along. Let's go to Bear in New Hampshire. Bear, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yo, hey, anybody hear me?
Yep.
You hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
All right,
you are
great.
on air.
All right, excellent. Well, I wanted to talk to the American people about this thing called theft, that is taxation is theft. Well, I just want to clarify that and say it's actually not theft. It's theft by consent. And the reason that you consented to your federal income taxation is because you don't understand, or most people in America don't understand, that the federal income tax is 3 words, federal income tax. And it means one of 2 things. It's either the federal power to tax your income, or it is the tax on your federal income. So let me put that to you pretty simply as far as an analogy. Let's say I said I'm a short bus driver. Does that make me a short driver of a bus, or does that make me the driver of a short bus?
I would guess driver of a short bus on that one.
Well, it could also mean something like.
Both.
It could also mean something like it could be a euphemism for somebody who's not too bright. That guy's a real short bus driver.
Euphemisms aside, those are the riders of the short bus. But you still have to figure out which is short. Is it the bus or is it the driver?
Yeah.
And so going back to the federal income tax, I want everybody go look at their 1040 instruction form and look for the words federal income tax. And you'll see that the word federal, when not at the beginning of a sentence, is a non-capitalized word, which makes the word federal an adjective. And an adjective does not describe the word after the word that follows. It describes the word that follows, which means federal income tax means the tax on federal income. In other words, if you're not making federal income, let's say as an officer, an employee, or an elected official of the United States, as in 26 United States Code, Section 3401, then you're not subject to that tax at all.
But they'll put you in a cage if you don't pay it.
Yeah, so I want to back up for just a minute there, Bear, because you said something. You said something about that people have consented to this,
Yes,
and I want to know where the consent is.
Okay, let me tell you where the consent is. The consent is in your failure to object. Let's say you receive a W-2 form. Okay. Have you looked at the authorizing statute?
Hey, Bear, I want to talk more about this. Can you hang on?
Sure can.
All right, stand by. 603-283-6160 is the telephone number here. When did you consent to taxation? We'll talk more about that coming up on Free Talk Live. It's the Sunday night edition.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, You cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agorasthosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agorist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agorasthosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agorasthosting.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks with the Week in Review. And the first full week of Russia's invasion of Ukraine ended with Moscow's forces still struggling to overcome Ukrainian resistance in Kyiv, Kharkiv, and a host of other major population centres. Scores of civilians have fled. Scores have been killed by a Russian onslaught that the US, NATO, and independent observers say has included the use of banned munitions. NATO's Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg warned that the weekend and the days after it will see a substantial escalation by the Russians.
The days to come are likely to be worse, with more death, more suffering, and more destruction.
In the centre of Tbilisi, the capital of Georgia,
President Zelensky, thank you very much for being here.
thousands of people thronged the streets on Friday night to express solidarity with Ukraine and hear an address from President Volodymyr Zelensky connected from Kyiv by video link.
I would like to call upon you not to be silent. I would like you to come out on the streets and support Ukraine. Support our efforts and support our fight.
The week saw the Western sanctions net tighten around the Kremlin. Trading on the Moscow Stock Exchange was suspended. The ruble collapsed. More figures in Vladimir Putin's inner circle joined the Russian leader and members of his National Security Council in being sanctioned. The US says it plans to freeze and seize the assets of Russia's wealthiest Kremlin supporters. And at his State of the Union address on Tuesday, President Biden said Putin underestimated the strength of Ukrainian resolve and Western unity.
He thought he could roll into Ukraine and the world would roll over. Instead, he met with a wall of strength he never anticipated or imagined. He met the Ukrainian people.
The scenes all week long from Ukraine have been heartbreaking. Blocks of flats and hospitals targeted by the Russians. Children killed. On Thursday night, the largest nuclear power plant in Europe shelled. Moscow falsely blamed Ukrainian saboteurs for that assault. But while Vladimir Putin has been further restricting free speech inside Russia, his propaganda outlets internationally have been challenged. RT America, the Washington-based Kremlin propaganda channel, closed its doors this week, unable to access financing from Moscow.
What factor we're looking at here is the impact on the gas pump for Americans.
That's White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki fielding questions this week about why America is still buying Russian oil. President Biden is under pressure to change that and may do so in the coming week. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
Yes, come on. Come on and listen to Free Talk Live. I don't know why I segue there into a southern accent. Suddenly,
just get the name of the show
after getting all "Shum on," "Shum on" would be like an R&B, like
Michael Jackson.
Yeah, right. I can't. My voice doesn't go that high, even if I'm kicked in that special place. This is Free Talk Live. The telephone number 603-283-6160, and we'll get back to Bear and his topic of. Well, he was talking about taxation being theft, but then he said something about it that we've given consent. And, well, I kind of disagree with that, but I want to hear his explanation. We'll get back to that in just a second. But in the studio, it's myself, the captain.
Nikki.
And Rich.
And I want to tell you that Bitcoin.com is the best source for learning about cryptocurrency. You can go there right now and click on Get Started at the top of the page. Once you do that, you'll find all sorts of valuable information neatly organized to suit your needs. There's no longer any excuse to ignore this important world-changing information. If you are a knowledgeable crypto user already, you can check out news.bitcoin.com and get the latest headlines of all the news relevant to you. Bitcoin.com is your source for everything crypto, like getting a wallet, mining, trading, and all the latest cryptocurrency news on a very slick and very easy-to-use website. Please visit Bitcoin.com. All right, let's go back to Bear, who was telling us that. You're back on the air. You've been telling us that taxation is theft, but you mentioned something about that we all consented somehow by not doing anything. How can you consent to something negatively?
Well, that's a legal idea called tacit proclamation, and that is if you fail to object, then you consent.
Okay, I get that that's a legal thing, but that doesn't make any sense in the logical word.
It doesn't have to. But if I could.
I feel like that works in debates too. Like if you're having a debate and you raise a point and the opposition doesn't object to that point or counter it, like you score on that one in my world.
Yep.
So
let's
see.
Fraud.
So if somebody wants to drop a bomb, unbeknownst to me, on my town or village that I live in, and I don't object because I don't know about it, how have I consented?
Well, first of all, you didn't object, but you were not also given notice. And if you were in court, you would have to be given notice first. That is the first idea of due process.
All right. So then, when did I get notice of the federal income tax?
You got notice when you received your W-2 or your 1099. And let me explain this to you. Have you read the authorizing statute for the W-2 or the 1099?
No. Why should I?
Because if you don't read it, then you're not able to object to the contract which they are establishing with you.
There is no contract if I didn't read it and sign it.
Well, you didn't read it, but they put it forth to you against your Social Security number, and therefore, in their mind, and I'm not saying it's right, but in their mind, you consented.
Okay, so
it's like giving notice in a paper of record.
I get what you're saying, like from a legal perspective. Yeah. I get that. Okay, so go ahead, continue.
So what you need to do is to object. Okay, so you need to object. Let me just go back 1 second. Remember the Declaration of Independence?
I'm sorry, you mean the Declaration of Independence? Yeah.
The Declaration of Independence says governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. And that word consent is the rule of our lawful government. So when they give you a 1099, it is presumed, or a W-2 for that matter, if you read the side of it, it'll say this tax information is furnished to the IRS. And then if you are subject to the tax and you don't pay the tax thereon, then you will be subject to penalties.
Right, yeah. If you don't pay the king's going to send armed guys, right? I get you.
But that establishes only a presumption that applies to you. It doesn't say that it applies to you. It says if it applies to you. Now, those are black and white words on paper that they sent to you. Okay, just look at your W-2, and it says if. If you don't see that word if, then you're missing a big thing.
So, Bear, my problem here is that I don't recognize their authority over me.
You recognize their authority by failing to object.
No, I think, I've been doing this on air here for, going on 3 years or so, and longer before that I had a podcast. I have been objecting for as long as I knew that, once it came to my mind that taxation is extortion, which is a more accurate way to say it, I have been objecting.
Well, you've been objecting, but not on the record. It requires a proper record. And this is what I like
in their system.
National radio to me seems like a pretty proper record.
Well, if you don't put it on paper, they don't recognize it. And I'm going to show your audience how to put it on paper. Now, the W-2 is authorized at Title 26, United States Code 3401, where the term wages means remuneration for services. The 1099 miscellaneous is authorized by 26 United States Code 6041A as an alpha. And it is determined that service recipients must report remuneration paid for any person for services performed.
Okay, this is where I'm going to stop you, Bear, because you're obviously a legal nerd. You've looked very deeply into this subject matter, and you're very knowledgeable. You're very knowledgeable about the subject matter that you are speaking about. But what I'm getting at is that what you're saying to people is like, oh, if you fill out this specific paperwork, or if you I don't know, submit this form, whatever it is,
the magical documents.
The magical. I am a free person, and there is no piece of paper on planet Earth that I need to fill out to prove that I'm free.
Except for the fact that if you don't fill out that piece of paperwork or do not object properly, the court system will not recognize it, and you'll go to jail.
Yeah, that's right, and that's where it's wrong. That's where the whole system is wrong, because the system should require actual consent, not this manufactured legal mumbo-jumbo consent that if you are ignorant or you haven't been taught about it.
And I also think it's important for us to say that coercion and threats are not equal to consent.
Correct. Thank you.
So that's not proper consent if I have to be threatened in order to get my consent to pay taxes.
So let's assume that you're right, Captain, and you're right, Nikki, like on the philosophical grounds.
Sure.
But this magical document gets you out of that system. So you can be philosophical. I don't have to do a gosh darn thing but them, and they can put me in jail if they want to. But if this one document gets you out, why not do the document?
Hang on a bit. Hang on.
Right?
Yeah.
So let me ask you guys a question.
Go ahead.
When it says wages are remuneration for service, do you know what the word service means in their language?
No, and I don't really care. Like, they can write down all the fancy words that they want to, right? And say, oh, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to jump into their pool because they built the pool. They make all of the rules. I'm not going to go root around and play a game where they write all the rules and then change all the rules when it suits them.
They can't change the rules. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, they can. They wrote them all. They could change them whatever they want, and they do all the time.
No,
rich people take advantage of tax loopholes on the regular.
There's no tax.
Absolutely, they should.
They should. So the rules are there, and there's outs all the way in there.
All right, hang on. Let's let Bear have a word.
Okay.
The rules start with the Constitution. Okay, and the Constitution, quote, is a written instrument. As such, its meaning does not alter. That which it meant when adopted, it means now. See South Carolina versus the United States, 1905. And when Congress cannot invoke the sovereignty of the people to override their will as declared in the Constitution. See Perry versus the United States. Therefore, and here's the key part, okay, therefore, Congress cannot redefine the words in the Constitution since it cannot, by legislation, alter the Constitution from which it alone derives its power to legislate. See Eisner versus Macomber.
Hey, Bear. Hey, thanks for the call. We appreciate it, man. I'm not sold. I realize that, yes, you sometimes need to do things in order to protect yourself from the state. And thus, things like this are important. But the overall, the philosophy, no. I never consented, and there is no evidence that I ever did. 603-283-6160. More Free Talk Live is coming up.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealestate.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm. Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 27th through July 3rd for the 6th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which sold out for the first time in 2021. Fork Fest takes place the week after Pork Fest, but Fork Fest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 27th through July 3rd. There's no better place to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire. You can find out more at the unofficial website, forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the Forkfest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the Forkfest Forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there. Forkfest.party. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in to Free Talk Live. The telephone number is 603-283-6160. I don't know why I said it like that. But,
6160.
603-283-6160. Yeah. No?
Yeah.
No. All right.
All right.
In the studio, it's myself, the captain.
Nikki.
And Richie Rich.
Rich, I wanted to give you a minute to... You started to make some points, and like Bear does have some good points, right? If you're in business, if you're even just trying to protect yourself, there are certain maneuvers you need to make to prevent the state from attacking you. So I want to give you a chance to say what you want to say.
So I want to start off by saying I don't think he's entirely right about everything. So what I'm going to say is presuming that he is, and I kind of want to go back a little bit as an example to the COVID lockdowns, specifically here in New Hampshire, where the governor, when he issued the lockdown orders and the mask rules, carved out an exception. And I believe he carved out that exception specifically for free staters because he knew that he would get way too much pushback from our community specifically had he not done that.
It's an interesting theory.
And the exception that he carved out was you have to wear a mask unless you have a medical condition and no one is allowed to ask you about your medical condition.
Right.
So you go to the store and they go like, "Where's your mask?" And you go, "I have a medical condition," and they can't say a word to you, right? Like that's it. They didn't have to let you in. And so through the COVID lockdown, right, like I took advantage of this.
Sadly, that's not exactly how it worked, but for the most part, it did. It went that
I'm not going
way.
to read the entire
Yeah.
order, but that's what it was. It was a carve out.
No, but I mean the practical application. Like if I
That's
went
how
to
it
a
worked for
place
me.
and they accosted me for not wearing
I've
a
been
mask,
kicked out of places.
and I said, yeah, I would. You know,
I
they
did
would,
not.
They would say things like, "That's not real. You have to wear a mask." Blah blah blah. And so I'd just be like, "You don't want me here? I'll leave." It's
No,
fine.
no. Okay, so different experience because mine was right this way, sir.
And anyway,
Right,
it's secondary to your point. So finish your point, please.
So my point was there was this built-in exception, and I believe specifically for us, and yet there were members of the community who would argue because they didn't want to wear a mask, and they didn't want to wear a mask on principle. Right? Like, I shouldn't have to wear a mask when I come into your establishment. This rule is nonsense. And as good libertarians, right, we're supposed to respect the rules of the private property establishment from which we are going into, even if the reason they're doing that is because of some arbitrary diktat from the state.
Yeah. Or
Right,
you could just say, I have a medical exemption and make your life way easier.
But libertarians wouldn't do that because they wanted to fight on principle.
Yes.
So I say that to say this, right? We can have the philosophical discussion all we want about, I did not consent to the state and I blah, blah, blah. And I will go down that road with you. I didn't consent either. Screw those guys, right? But if there is a magical document that makes my life a whole lot easier because I can file a single piece of paper and the state leaves me alone, like, screw you guys then. I'm filing the document and you can continue to fight on principle. And if Bear has that document and whatever he's saying on air is like valid, legitimate, accurate, and he has recused himself from that system by filing these magical documents, like, why not do it too and just be done with it there and not have to have the battle with the state on both the philosophical and the real grounds?
The reason that I would not, right, in most cases, there are some cases when I would, but in most cases, the reason that I would not entertain that is because that could be construed, legally speaking, as some sort of a cage, right? Some sort of legal, well, you did fill out this paperwork, didn't you, Mr. Richie Rich?
Sure.
And you're like, yep, sure did. And like, well, because you filled this out, that then legally binds you to blah, 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 and then they could throw you in a cage.
Yeah.
Even more so than if you hadn't filled it out.
And when the state tries to prosecute me for something, right, you can best believe I'm going to file a motion to dismiss those charges like immediately within their system because it may just get me off without any further complications.
So this type of documentation, when I was sort of growing up, was real big with folks who would call themselves sovereign citizens, the sovereign citizens movement.
Yeah.
Right. The original folks who would drive around with no license plates on their cars because
it's an oxymoron, but sure.
Yeah. All of that kind of thing. And so I remember, and I can't cite the specific example, but I remember a guy who did all of that. He filled out all the paperwork for this, leave me alone state, leave me alone government. He filled out all the paperwork, and they sent him to jail anyway.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Right. Which is why I started by saying I don't know if it's all true, but if it is true, shouldn't we not all be doing this thing?
Like the state is evil.
Yep.
What they do is evil in almost every way. I mean, even if there's some program that did some good for some people, that program was funded by coercing money out of people who did not consent.
I used to work at a gas station, and I was cited several times for selling cigarettes to minors during sting operations. And on one particular time, I got away with it because they didn't think I was going to put up a defense, right? They're like, oh, he'll just take the plea or whatever. And so they left the pack of cigarettes at the evidence locker at the police station. So when it came time, they went through the entire court trial, and it was time to produce the evidence. They couldn't, right?
Can't have a case without evidence.
And so it was dismissed. Now, did I fight that and go like, well, on principle, this should be dismissed for, because I should be allowed to do and whatever, and if they can afford it? No.
Yeah, just take it.
I just took it.
Yeah.
I'm out. Deuces. With prejudice, Your Honor, with prejudice. And he scorned at me as he did it because he was so pissed at the prosecutor. But I'll take a win where I can get one, man.
And it's unfortunate because there's a major flaw in this system where, for example, me and Richie Rich could both fill out this magic paperwork, right?
Right.
And it might work for him if he gets a certain judge, but it might not work for me if I get a certain judge.
Also
so
true.
that's a major flaw when we're having these magical people wearing magical robes who get to decide people's fate. And it has nothing to do with actual laws. It just has to do with what mood they're in that day, or if the person that went before you in court pissed him off or not. That's not fair.
And that could easily be why this has worked for Bear and will not work for anybody else.
Right. Now, there are people who do this kind of a thing. And to some extent, the things that Bear called in and talked about have been talked about extensively on air, on a radio show by Mark Stevens, who did the No State Project. And he would offer, you could go download like guides on how to.
I paid for it.
All of this kind of thing.
I bought his questionnaire and forms and did all that stuff.
And I love that. I love that. So like when you do find yourself being attacked by the state, you have somewhat of a framework on how to mount a defense against them.
It was amazing. The Mark Stevens thing was amazing because I watched a couple of his videos.
Yeah.
And in the video, he was like, you're going to object and you're going to say these words. And the prosecutor's immediately going to jump up and say these words.
Right.
Now, and I'll give it a shot. I'm in court all the time. This was some time ago.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I said the magic words, and the prosecutor jumped up from his desk, said the magic words that Mark Stevens said he was going to say, and I was like, well, gosh darn. Yeah. There is something to this. Yeah. I don't know what it is. Yeah. I couldn't pinpoint it exactly, but there is more to this than they're letting on. Yeah. And some of those sovereign citizens, quote unquote, people have a little bit more figured out.
So Mark Stevens, the bit that I remember was he was all about jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Right. How can you prove that the government, the state of whatever, or the federal government has jurisdiction over you?
And they have that burden of proof.
So they need to prove that, the state of, we're in New Hampshire, so the state of New Hampshire has jurisdiction over you, Richie Rich.
Right.
And they can't do that because the state of New Hampshire technically is a piece of paper.
Right. And so that was another thing, right, that I tried that in court.
Yeah.
Right. And they go, well, that's a question for trial. We'll deal with that at trial.
Right.
And then we get to trial and I raise the question again. They go like, well, it's too late. Jurisdiction is already established.
Right.
It's like, you got me.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to let them get past this point the next time.
Right.
But they steamroll it anyway.
But that's what they do. They steamroll you. And I just happen to have an example of this. This is from laurashin.bulletin.com. Laura Shin's a cryptocurrency writer. And this is within another thing. The U.S. Internal Revenue Service filed to dismiss a lawsuit by Joshua and Jessica Jarrett, a married couple who claims they should not have paid income tax on cryptocurrency staking rewards. So staking rewards is when you put up a sum of cryptocurrency, and for the privilege of putting that up, they pay you some money. It's not really earning interest. It's a staking reward against the sum that you put up. While the IRS offered the Jarretts a refund in December, the couple refused in an effort to force a federal court to decide how staking income is taxed in the U.S. We'll tell you the outcome of this coming up here on Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. FreePrivateCities.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks with the Week in Review. And the first full week of Russia's invasion of Ukraine ended with Moscow's forces still struggling to overcome Ukrainian resistance in Kyiv, Kharkiv, and a host of other major population centres. Scores of civilians have fled. Scores have been killed by a Russian onslaught that the US, NATO, and independent observers say has included the use of banned munitions. NATO's Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg warned that the weekend and the days after it will see a substantial escalation by the Russians.
The days to come are likely to be worse, with more death, more suffering, and more destruction.
In the centre of Tbilisi, the capital of Georgia,
President Zelensky, thank you very much for being here.
thousands of people thronged the streets on Friday night to express solidarity with Ukraine and hear an address from President Volodymyr Zelensky connected from Kyiv by video link.
I would like to call upon you not to be silent. I would like you to come out on the streets and support Ukraine. Support our efforts and support our fight.
The week saw the Western sanctions net tighten around the Kremlin. Trading on the Moscow Stock Exchange was suspended. The ruble collapsed. More figures in Vladimir Putin's inner circle joined the Russian leader and members of his National Security Council in being sanctioned. The US says it plans to freeze and seize the assets of Russia's wealthiest Kremlin supporters. And at his State of the Union address on Tuesday, President Biden said Putin underestimated the strength of Ukrainian resolve and Western unity.
He thought he could roll into Ukraine and the world would roll over. Instead, he met with a wall of strength he never anticipated or imagined. He met the Ukrainian people.
The scenes all week long from Ukraine have been heartbreaking. Blocks of flats and hospitals targeted by the Russians. Children killed. On Thursday night, the largest nuclear power plant in Europe shelled. Moscow falsely blamed Ukrainian saboteurs for that assault. But while Vladimir Putin has been further restricting free speech inside Russia, his propaganda outlets internationally have been challenged. RT America, the Washington-based Kremlin propaganda channel, closed its doors this week, unable to access financing from Moscow.
What factor we're looking at here is the impact on the gas pump for Americans.
That's White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki fielding questions this week about why America is still buying Russian oil. President Biden is under pressure to change that and may do so in the coming week. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. Russia's invasion of Ukraine will continue to weigh on US markets in the coming week. With the preview, FSN's Nick Harper.
The bright spot on Friday, the release of the better-than-expected monthly jobs report, did little to cheer investors. 678,000 jobs were added, and the unemployment rate dipped to 3.8%. But the ongoing conflict in Ukraine continued to worry traders, a trend that's expected to continue through this coming week. But there are signs, however, that 40-year high inflation may be beginning to cool somewhat, but not enough to deter the US Federal Reserve from raising interest rates at its meeting on the 15th and 16th of this month.
The world of cricket is mourning one of the sport's greatest stars. Shane Warne died of a suspected heart attack on Friday while on holiday in Thailand. The Australian is widely recognised as one of the best spin bowlers of all time. Vic Marks is a former England and Somerset cricketer and paid tribute to Warne's career.
Warne, the bowler, was the best I've ever seen, the best slow bowler I've ever seen. And of course, he was on the field. He was one of the great kidologists as well. He was a genius anyway, but he got inside people's minds. Yeah. He tormented them with a look, the odd word. You know, I'm in charge here, and it's only a matter of time before you go. He would get under their skin.
Shane Warne was just 52. In the coming week, we'll continue reporting every turn in the Ukraine crisis, but for the first time in 30 years, not from our bureau in Moscow. We have, like many other broadcasters, temporarily suspended operations there after President Putin signed a new law imposing reporting restrictions from the country. Our brave and courageous Moscow team will be back on the air very soon, here and on our affiliated broadcast networks worldwide. And that is the Week in Review from Feature Story News. Simon Marks reporting.
To help you understand how dangerous narcotics operations have persisted despite decades of bold efforts to completely mishandle the problem, we now present The Onion Explains, the drug trade. The cartels remain as powerful as ever. Experts say that the only solution is to eliminate the demand for illegal drugs by instead getting buzzed on common household products, like cough syrup. Not only do items such as nail polish remover and model glue get you ripped if you really breathe that in, they also help shrink the market for cartel drugs. Cartels would stand to lose billions if even a third of the people using their cocaine or methamphetamine instead huffed Freon, which will knock you right on your ass just as quickly. It's easy to get by cracking open an air conditioner. If enough people realize that keyboard cleaner will put you in a insane trance and that it's just sitting there right now in your desk drawer, the costly war on drugs could very well end tomorrow.
Free Talk Live.
The telephone number 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. If you would like to join us live on nationally syndicated talk radio, plus the internet and some satellite channels as well. This is Free Talk Live. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the Reverend Captain Kickass.
Nikki.
And Richie Rich.
We'll get to your calls and thoughts in just a minute. Before the top of the hour, I was talking about this example where the U.S. Internal Service filed to dismiss a lawsuit by Joshua and Jessica Jarrett, a married couple who claims they should not have paid income tax on cryptocurrency staking rewards. While the IRS offered the Jarretts a refund in December, the couple refused, and this was in an effort to force federal court to decide how staking income is taxed in the U.S.
See?
Because that hasn't been decided yet.
They're making a sacrifice because they could have just taken their W and walked out of there.
However, this week, the IRS filed a motion to dismiss the case, arguing that the Jarretts could not refuse its offer of a refund.
There you go.
So, is that changing the rules?
Depends if it was already in the rules. Like, what do the rules actually say?
I wouldn't be able to tell you, so.
Yeah. But you would have to know,
yeah.
right? You would have to know what rule says that they can't offer it, and then is that rule legit, right? For us, no, because none of them are. But if you're going to play that game, right? If they're going like, you know, we could help a lot of people if we just don't take this refund, because then we would set the precedent going forward, and the IRS knows this, and because it's their rules, they go like, well, we'll just give them a refund, and then they get away with it. No precedent is set. And
but isn't that a precedent in and of itself, because they did offer and issue the refund if they accepted it?
No, because there's no federal judgment. It's just the IRS giving them a refund. It's like when you get, if you get your money back from a store and they go like, well, we're going to give you this one-time courtesy credit.
Yeah.
Right? The IRS will give you this one-time courtesy refund, but it's specific to you because there's no federal judgment. or no court judgment.
No, sir. I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
I don't like it at all, but that's what it is.
Let's go to your calls and thoughts. We have Jill in Virginia. Jill, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hello. Excuse me. I was drinking some Dr. Pepper, and I think some went down the wrong way.
Uh-oh. Vanilla cherry Dr. Pepper is my favorite soda ever.
Vanilla cherry Dr. Pepper. I like just
mine
regular.
are Coke, but they brought in some neo-racist policy, so I'm boycotting them for the present.
Nice. What's on your mind tonight, Jill?
Well, a man who called in and said that taxation was done with the taxpayer's consent because he didn't say it wasn't, and
there was
I
no
think this was
objection.
a considerable amount of sophistry involved here. Of course, I don't usually call it theft because I'm a little more blunt than that. I think the precise term is robbery because it's done under threat of force.
Yes.
If you don't pay it, they're going to come and take you to jail. If you refuse to go to jail, how are they going to make you go to jail? They're going to show you a gun, right?
Correct. But if you fill out the special form, none of that happens.
Oh, yeah.
In theory.
In theory.
It might.
Ha ha. Yeah. If you believe that one, how many more things are you going to believe?
So you're not buying it, Jill. You're not buying the magic piece of paper?
No. I think it's nonsense. But that's what it is. The citizen has not consented to it because the law is on the books. They even managed to get it into the Constitution. It's a monstrosity, but it was ratified. Of course, Amendment number 18 was in the Constitution for about 14 years, and it was repealed. So maybe number 16 can be repealed, too.
Good luck.
Yeah, eventually. But the thing is that until it is, there it is, and it's a threat.
It certainly
and when
is.
somebody comes and makes a threat to you, it doesn't mean you consent just because you give in to the threat. And it's an insult to the victim to say that. Consented.
I couldn't agree more, Jill.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts tonight?
Well, a little bit. I do think that we should get rid of those regulations that keep people from drilling for oil. And I don't think that this country should be buying any oil or other product from Russia. A totalitarian state is a sin to prop up a totalitarian state.
Well,
Do you feel the same way about China? That we shouldn't be buying? Okay.
You better believe it.
I don't feel that way because if somebody, lives in some other geographic area that is ruled over by, some other form of government, if they make something that's a superior product or a lower cost or something that I need, I am going to seek them out to purchase it regardless of what, what kind of rule they have over them. Now, if they themselves are participating in, something like creating war or coercing people in some way, shape, or form, which of course all governments do, then, I might consider boycotting that specific business. But I'm not going to blanket statement say, I'm not going to buy anything from China or Russia or Timbuktu or, whatever, just because there is some political turmoil going on, particularly
some political turmoil.
Yeah, but particularly if they do it better or, make something that I need.
I'm not blaming the workers in those plants.
Right.
They're the victims, but I don't want to give money to those people who are holding them as slaves and enslave them further.
I hear you.
I get that, and I also don't necessarily like the U.S. government, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to buy stuff from
the U.S. Right,
U.S. government is not a totalitarian state.
Oh,
it's getting there.
Yeah, it's real.
Well,
I shop where the value's
not
the
quite,
highest, man.
but it's getting there.
There doesn't seem to be much difference between, how people in the U.S. are ruled over versus how people everywhere else are ruled over.
What would you have to see from the U.S. government to declare it a totalitarian state?
all things like what they're doing in Russia and China.
Such
I've
as?
read about what they do, sending people to the internment camps against their will because of
Guantanamo Bay
basic
type of
things
thing? Or does that not count anymore?
The Japanese people in World War II?
Japanese people, yep. We've
that
done
was
that.
wrong too, but it's been repudiated. I think I believe the government has admitted that was wrong.
Okay.
Well, doesn't mean it can't happen again, unfortunately.
Well, and again, Guantanamo Bay is still open.
Yeah.
Still open.
Right.
It's true. All right. Hey, Jill, thanks for the call tonight. We appreciate it. I want to talk a little bit more about consent because I'm just doing a quick search here. The magic glowing screen in front of me says there are 4 types of consent: implied consent, express consent, informed consent, and unanimous consent. I want to talk about the first one because the other 3 seem pretty self-explanatory. Right?
Okay.
I get express consent, I get informed consent, and I get unanimous consent. Implied consent, however, I'm like, did I imply that I consented? How does that work? How does one imply
if someone's
that they've
dying
consented? So,
and you give them CPR, there's implied consent.
So, well, there are laws that invoke this term,
Well,
implied
and it's like
consent.
if you don't explicitly say no, then it means yes. That's my understanding of implied consent.
So here's this particular example I find disturbing. An implied consent law is enforced throughout the United States. According to this law, by driving a vehicle, you have agreed to submit to chemical tests of your breath, blood, or urine to determine alcohol or drug content if asked to do so by a law enforcement officer.
Maybe if you signed up to get their driver's license, perhaps.
No, that would be direct consent, not implied.
Okay.
This is implied consent, and I don't think that you can actually imply consent.
Not in that case.
603-283-6160. Tell us your thoughts and join us here on Free Talk Live. More is coming up.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
Brute force, intransigent defiance, adamantine will. These are the hallmarks of the AI tank. These gigantic machines have the firepower of an army, but they also have their own sense of honor and duty. When the world breakers arrive, battle will be joined, planets will shake, and war and peace will never be the same again. World Breakers. Stories from David Weber, Larry Correia, and more. Available August 3rd from BaneBooks.com.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to mymagicmud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. mymagicmud.com, FTL20.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Phone records, financial and location data, Prism, Tempora, Xkeyscore, Boundless Informant. Hey y'all, Scott Horton here for offnow.org. Now here's the deal. Due to the Snowden revelations, we have a great opportunity for a short period of time to get some real rollback of the national surveillance state. Now they're already trying to tire us by introducing fake reforms in the Congress. And the courts, they betrayed their sworn oaths to the Constitution and Bill of Rights again and again, and can in no way be trusted to stop the abuses for us. We've got to do it ourselves. How? We nullify it at the state level. It's still not easy, but the Off Now project of the 10th Amendment Center has gotten off to a great start. I mean it. There's real reason to be optimistic here. They've gotten their model legislation introduced all over the place, in state after state. I've lost count, more than a dozen. You're always wondering, yeah, but what can we do? Here's something important, something that can work if we do the work. Get started cutting off the NSA support in your state. Go to offnow.org.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Free Talk Live. We're a live radio call-in program that's also broadcast on the internet and a couple of satellite channels. So we're worldwide. Well, not worldwide, but we have a global presence. It could be said international, at least. We're
galactical if those things are going out into space.
That's true. We are an intergalactic radio program where you can call in at 603-283-6160. We are also the #1 most rated talk show in all of Earth's history. So
we need a plaque or an award for that hanging in the office somewhere.
Maybe we'll get like one of these made and framed and whatever. In the studio today, it's myself, the captain.
Nikki.
And Richie Rich.
Free Talk Live's video archives have been on Library for years. Library is an uncensorable, decentralized blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of that here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, Library launched Odyssey, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it is really taking off now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. Thankfully, Odyssey started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odyssey. You can watch live or anytime on our Odyssey channel just by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go even further, download the desktop app over at lbry.com. And then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed to keep it online forever. Again, visit us at video.freetalklive.com, video.freetalklive.com. All right, so we've been talking about consent, and I'm of the opinion that implied consent is a BS term.
Okay. I will grant you that the term may be BS, but the concept behind the term is valid in a lot of situations.
Yes. Now, if somebody is going to, we were talking about, somebody gave somebody the Heimlich maneuver, right, because they saw him choking or whatever.
Or they found him slumped in their chair turning blue.
Right. And I remember like this occurring, like when I was growing up, I remember somebody suing somebody who saved them. Like they were dying, they were choking, and somebody gave them the Heimlich maneuver, and then they turned around and sued them for like damages because they like broke a rib or something. Yep. I don't remember the exacts of the case. And so I have a feeling that this is where a lot of this implied consent legislation came from. That didn't exist before.
Paramedics will frequently break the ribs of elderly patients while they're doing CPR and chest compressions.
Yeah.
Right.
Can't do anything about it.
It's hard not to.
Right.
Exactly. But
you can have something called a do not resuscitate order, where, if you want to, if you're old and you're out and about, and if you die and you don't want to be resuscitated, wear a bracelet that says DNR, do not resuscitate.
That would be withdrawn consent.
So that's withdrawing consent. I don't want to be saved. If you see me dead on the ground, call the morgue. Do not call the hospital.
That would be more along with Bear's idea of you must object, right?
Yeah.
There is implied consent to save my life unless I object by wearing this special thing above and beyond what a normal person would require.
And then with that, you're kind of going with the majority, right? So the majority of people who are dying want to be saved, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
But those select few who are old or whatever the reason is, if they don't want to be resuscitated, if they're choking, dying, whatever, it would make sense for those people to have to give explicit withdrawal of consent to be whatever saved.
Right? Lifeguard saving a drowning kid in a swimming pool, implied consent. Or whatever term you want to use to express that concept.
Well, I think in the case of the swimming pool, if you use the swimming pool, you have already consented to whatever the rules of that pool are, particularly if the rules are posted.
Okay.
Right. And if they have a lifeguard on duty, pretty obvious what's going to happen if you drown.
Yeah.
Right.
Or a good Samaritan at the beach with no lifeguard on duty then.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't want to die, and I don't want somebody to, be afraid of the legal system because, I'm going to die because somebody's afraid of the legal system when they could.
That's why we have the concept of implied consent.
Easily.
I think there are other things that you could use implied consent for correctly, like a couple, if you would have to ask, your significant other every single time you were to hug or kiss them. I think that's a situation where implied consent would be, you're not going to be like, you sexually assaulted me for kissing me without explicitly asking me first. It's kind of just implied that from the history of relationship, that's cool.
There's a term for that in, I hate to use the term licensing, but when somebody does license something, sometimes there's a period of time on that, or sometimes it's an open-ended license. And so software.
Like marriage, open-ended license. Until you terminate that.
I mean, still, that's not quite, and particularly marriage and relationships, you don't really have an open license. You can still violate consent. There are plenty of married people who have been raped against their will. Yeah. And so, I don't want to, jump into that end of the pool, so to speak.
Just stick with first responders then. That's where it's probably where you can wrap your head around the concept, or the listener can wrap their head around the concept.
No, I get the concept. I just don't like that it's a state-sponsored concept.
Okay.
I don't like anything that's state-sponsored.
Yeah.
If you remove,
to me, it's common sense. Okay. To me, it's common sense that, hey, if there's a guy choking and you can give him the Heimlich maneuver to save his life, well, then do it.
So here's the thing. It's one of those things where it is currently a state-sponsored concept. Absent the state, it would still exist.
Yes.
Because the vast majority of society...
I think it existed long before the state ever existed.
There you go.
Yes.
Because the vast majority of society would prefer to operate in such a way that if you are in need of medical attention, you don't have to give explicit consent to receive it by anyone who's performing it.
On the other end of that, if I'm in a situation where somebody else is, drowning, choking, insert event here, and I see that and I go, I know the Heimlich maneuver, I'm going to make a decision myself to say, oh, hey, this guy's in trouble. I'm going to help, and I'm going to accept the consequences of my actions regardless. Right? Because I'm trying to do something nice and good for this person who might be dying, because I would want somebody else to do that for me if I were in that situation. So,
but
with
you can
that
rest
in mind,
assured that if you took it to arbitration outside of a state-sponsored court, right, that a fair arbitrator would be like, no, there was implied consent.
But with all that in mind, let's just say that the court did find that, hey, I did something weird and I could be charged with a thing and thrown in a cage or whatever. I still made that decision myself.
You did.
And I'm responsible for the outcome of that decision, regardless as to whether or not the state deems it a correct maneuver or not.
Right. But if the consequence for doing those things always ends up in people getting arrested or caged or found financially liable, right, then people would stop doing those things.
Well, then you need to look at the organization doing the arresting and the kidnapping and the finding of those people and make sure that that organization goes away.
What if a free market arbitrator decided that way, it would have the same effect.
603-283-6160. Coming up, we're going to talk about all sorts of fun things, such as invasive parachuting spiders invading the East Coast.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Jagruti Dave. Evacuation efforts in the southern Ukrainian city of Mariupol have failed for a second time. Both Ukraine and Russia have blamed each other for the collapse of a temporary ceasefire whose aim was to get the city's more than 200,000 residents to safety. Authorities in Mariupol said people hiding from Russia's ongoing bombardment are rapidly running out of food and water. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky also warned Russian forces were preparing to strike Odessa, another city in the south. And in a video message, he once again appealed to world leaders to close the sky over Ukraine. Western allies remain reticent about a no-fly zone, fearing it could escalate tensions with Russia even further. But the United States is in talks with Poland about giving Ukraine Polish military aircraft to use. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken also said America is discussing a possible ban on Russian oil imports with its European allies. Russian authorities have repeatedly rejected accusations that it's targeting civilians. They're also continuing their crackdown on anti-war protesters. Independent monitoring group OVD Info said police had detained more than 4,300 people on Sunday. In Europe, hearings at the International Court of Justice at The Hague open on Monday with a case brought by Ukraine against Russia. And on the diplomatic front, French President Emmanuel Macron had another call with his Russian counterpart over the weekend. Rosie Burchard has more.
Macron's office said the call was mainly about the safety of nuclear plants, and that follows an attack on a major Ukrainian plant on Friday. Now, according to a French official, President Macron told President Putin that keeping up International Atomic Energy Agency safety standards at Chernobyl and other plants was essential. That official said President Putin insisted he doesn't intend to attack Ukrainian nuclear plants and agreed in principle to dialogue with the Atomic Energy Agency and Ukraine on the issue, but no agreement on stopping this conflict. On Tuesday, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson will also hold talks with the leaders of Hungary, Poland, the Czech Republic and Slovakia. Due to their proximity to Ukraine, these EU and NATO members are growing increasingly fearful for their own security, with a potentially deepening crisis right on their doorsteps.
Now, the Ukraine conflict has sparked the biggest refugee crisis since the Second World War, according to the United Nations. The UN High Commissioner for Refugees, Filippo Grandi, tweeted more than 1.5 million refugees from Ukraine have crossed into neighbouring countries in 10 days. The majority have crossed into Poland, that's more than 800,000 people. Others have escaped through Slovakia, Hungary and northern Romania. According to UN estimates, more than 4 million people could become refugees, while 12 million people inside Ukraine may need humanitarian aid in the coming months. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
Yes, it is Free Talk Live. Thank you for tuning in. The telephone number here is 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. In the studio, it's myself, the captain.
Nikki.
And Richie Rich.
All right. Richie Rich, you, without fail, every week that you're on, bring in some of the zaniest or most bizarre headlines. Sometimes tabloid-esque, sometimes just stuff to make you think. I ran across something that I thought you, of all people, because you bring these in consistently, would enjoy.
Absolutely.
This is from WISN. This is Channel 12 ABC, Wisconsin. It's a television channel. A big no. Huge invasive parachuting spiders will begin to cover the East Coast, experts say.
Oh, no. Stay in Wisconsin.
Doesn't that happen in Australia?
I don't know.
I think it does. I think it rains spiders there.
They have the scariest animals in Australia.
I've never heard of
visit.
Like these are spider paratroopers. Apparently,
like the little GI Joes.
Like, do they have a spider air force that's dropping the little spiders out of airplanes?
You know what? The only thing that can explain this: aliens.
Aliens.
Okay.
Aliens.
Go on.
Who else is dropping spiders from the sky?
Like that needs more than just a cursory explanation there. Aliens. Go.
Now, I don't enjoy spiders, right?
Okay.
As far as if I'm in my house and I see a spider, I don't like that, right? My rule is I don't care if you exist. I don't want to see you.
I'm more okay with spiders than roaches.
Yes, absolutely. Well, so now let me preface this or postface this. I don't know.
It's too late to preface it.
Let me preface.
Post note.
Post note the preface.
Postscript? It's a PS.
What should have been the preface is that I understand that spiders are kind of your friend.
Yeah.
Because they eat all the other insects. So if you got other insects in your house, these spiders are nature's way of sort of taking care of that, making sure they don't get out of hand, and et cetera and so on. So
I've woken up with a few little spider nibbles on my hand. I'm like,
I don't like that.
Okay.
No.
I don't like it either, but the alternative is other bugs, and that's worse for me.
Yeah, so I get all that. But again, I just don't like spiders. You're not going to see me having a pet tarantula in an aquarium in my house. That's not going to happen. I'm not going to have an ant farm in one of those little, those little things that looks like
Free the ants.
Yeah, I didn't even do you remember what was it called? It was called the Sea Monkeys.
Oh yeah.
At the back of the comic book, it's just brine shrimp.
Yeah.
Right? And it's that's a total ripoff. You can just get onto the local place and get brine shrimp and pour them in some water, and there you go, sea monkeys. But no, they charge you 4 times as much or whatever to order it out of the back of the comic book. But that being said, my imagination when I read that headline was whoa, wait a minute. How giant are these spiders? What do these parachutes look like? Who makes these parachutes for these spiders?
They're woven with the silk of the spider. It's very tightly woven.
They actually are. Giant parachuting spiders could show up along the entire east coast of the United States, according to some scientists.
Sounds legit.
That's it. End the Free State Project right now. We don't need any of that.
Originally from Japan, the 3-inch-long Joro spider made its way first to Georgia and has begun to slowly spread out. It's disgusting, said Anna Reed. A big no, said Danisha Match. Oh, Lord Jesus, said Gregory Lightfoot.
You're going to be quoted in the paper. That's how you get quoted in the paper.
Oh, Lord Jesus. University of Georgia scientists have released a study saying the 8-legged residents are about to become even more prolific in Georgia and spread up and down the entire East Coast.
Well, if they're making little parachutes, they're just going to float with the current.
I doubt they'll make it up to New Hampshire.
I don't know.
Over what period of time?
Never.
There was
all you need is one Japanese dude from Georgia to have one stowed away in his vehicle as he comes up here for
there was this lady found a black widow in her bag of grapes.
Yeah, that
came from down south.
That was out of Washington, that story.
Oh, really?
Was no. I'm sorry, different story. It wasn't grapes, but a lady was purchasing some sort of produce it was actually the store that I used to go to, just in Edmonds, Washington, Safeway out there. And so she had, bagged up her groceries or whatever and got home, and then, took the bag of whatever out of the paper bag, and out comes this spider. And so she took a photo of it and everything and got online, and they sent some, somebody came out to take care of it and that kind of thing. But they, of course, imagine that it came over on some, freighter boat,
Yeah, because we don't have those
stowaways.
Stowaway, yes. Oh, Segway.
No, we finished this one.
Oh. All right.
Foreshadowing.
5 shadowing? What? Oh, no, it's only 3 shadowing. It's just us. It's 3 shadows. Anyway, it doesn't have anything that's controlling its population size in the new habitat, but it has perfect conditions to spread, said Benjamin Frick. That's right. His name is Frick. Nice frickin' name. Nice frickin' name. He's the co-author of the study and an undergraduate at Odom School of Ecology, University of Georgia. Scientists say it will continue to spread because of its ability to survive the cold. I don't think of Georgia as a cold place. So in our experiment, we exposed them to a brief period of cold, only for a couple of minutes at below freezing temperatures, and most of the Joros did just fine, said Andy Davis, co-author.
So they'll be
of the
fine
study.
in New Hampshire.
They're not going to die in 3 minutes. They're going to, over the course, how long is it? It's cold here for a long time, half the year. They're going to die. Don't worry.
Researchers have found the spiders can travel using their webs like balloons or parachutes to ride the wind.
It's pretty badass.
But it's unknowing
a butt balloon.
It's unknowing humans who will spread them quicker.
See?
Can you just imagine though, you're just walking along outside, you get hit in the head, right? And what the heck was that? And you look down and it's some spider with this weird looking parachute thing. He looks up and he says, "Hey, buddy, get out of my way."
Watch where you're going.
A whole invasion of them, though, coming down.
We had a Joro being found in Oklahoma. We tracked the person who made the observation, and it turned out it was a student from here. So from Georgia.
Okay.
Joros don't appear to have much of an effect on local food webs or ecosystems. And as menacing as the big spiders look, experts say they're scaredy cats, and you're highly unlikely to be bitten by one. Its fangs are so small relative to most human skin that it probably wouldn't be able to get its fangs into you even if it wanted to, Frick said. Well, what the frick does he know?
I'm less scared of these now. Bring them on.
Frickin' Davis, it's Frick and Davis. Frickin' Davis said, if you are unlucky enough to be bitten by a Joro, its bite feels far less than a wasp sting and a little like a pinch.
Okay.
They do have a little venom, but like a bee or wasp sting, most will not need any medical attention. The East Coast can expect to see webs around late May, early June, but the really big female webs come around the start of fall.
I changed my mind. They are welcome in New Hampshire.
Okay.
I mean, I don't want giant parachuting
They're
spiders.
not giant, though. They're 3 inches. That's not really giant.
They'll
That's
turn
smaller than a wolf spider.
They'll turn murderous as soon as the Rush Ukraine thing is
Men around the world would have ladies believe 3 inches is giant.
Well, 3 inches around. What's your diameter there?
What's your diameter? Diameter. Di is the first part of ammeter. Diameter. 603-283-6160. Do you want giant parachuting spiders all up and down the East Coast, starting in May and
right up into Massachusetts,
all the way through fall?
There. And we'll put up a border.
Oh, that would be fun. Libertarian parachuting giant spiders. Now on Free Talk Live. More coming up.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be. I've always wanted to change the world. So I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Warden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Warden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market. Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
Come on and dance. Come on, Eileen. I'm trying to think of other songs that start with the phrase "come on," and I'm drawing a blank now. I got two. That was pretty good. Usually,
two more than me.
Usually, I'm good for like three of a thing, but I guess not. 603-283-6160 is the telephone number if you would like to join us on air at Free Talk Live. That's the name of this show. In the studio, it's myself, the captain,
Nikki,
and Rich.
And let's just go to Major Payne in Michigan. Major, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yeah, you got close on one of them. You know what you call a one-legged prostitute, don't you? That would be Eileen. I stand Eileen.
What do you call a guy with no arms and no legs?
Second base.
What do you call a guy with no arms and no legs who hangs on a wall?
Oh God, I remember this one.
It's Art.
Go on.
It's Art.
Art.
What do you call his father?
Phil.
Pop Art.
Oh, on the wall still. Okay. I get you.
What's on your mind, Major?
Well, you guys are talking about these flying spiders. They theoretically came out of Georgia from Japan. Japan does have some decent winters, so I think these bugs are going to do just fine in New Hampshire and probably Michigan too if they ever make it here.
Great.
But
they're so polite, though. They have no impact on local ecology or call it whatever.
I'm whelmed by the whole subject.
Well, dude, you can infest a whole city with cockroaches just by having one in the cuff of your pants.
Don't say stuff like that.
You're triggering me.
They're asexual like worms. They don't need nobody to breed.
Dude, I lived in the panhandle. The panhandle of Florida for some time, and I have never seen bigger cockroaches than I saw.
Oh yeah, you
there.
can put a saddle on them buggers.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about exactly that. Like, can I somehow tie them all together and get them to do like work for me, hauling loads down the street or whatever?
Oh, I had to do a gig in Columbus, Ohio one time. There was this woman. She must have weighed 500-600 pounds, and they've been trying to evict her out of there for like 6 months. Shut the water, utilities, everything off. So by the time we got there, there was this giant, big claw bathtub, and it was full right to the brim of feces, right? So everything was disgusting. So we finally got the water on and got her cleaned out a little bit, and I go into John to take a whiz, and I lift up the toilet seat, and this 4-inch cockroach is standing there, and he literally reeled up on his back legs and took a swing at me and hit. Dude wanted to fight.
Remember Joe's apartment?
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, the whole Georgia thing, that's where Parris Island was. And they're the ones that gave us, the government, our lovely forefathers, gave us Lyme disease and spotted Rocky Mountain fever. And the ticks have kind of a parachute-shaped body, so they can float on the wind, too, just like these spiders.
That's one of the reasons why I don't like doing outdoor activity in New Hampshire.
There are bugs here.
The other thing I want to tell you about spiders is the most poisonous spider in America is the daddy longlegs, and he don't even build a web.
Can't bite you, though.
He can't kill you because his fangs are so short they can't puncture your skin.
Is that true?
I think it is true. Yeah. I've heard that before, but
I've also thought I saw that myth
he hunts for a living.
Point.
Maybe
he hunts for a living. He don't build no webs.
Okay.
But them wolf spiders, if you kill one of them, their mate will come hunting you. I've experienced this more than once. So if you whack one, you better be looking for the other.
You're being chased. You're being stalked by a.
That's what I would do.
Another wolf spider.
Chased back to your postal van by a wolf spider.
Oh, they're nasty, man. They leave a mean welt when they bite you.
All right. What else was on your mind? You had something else you want to talk about?
Yeah, you guys were talking about people getting sued for doing the right thing to the wrong person. Trying to save somebody's skin. Well, and sometimes the government does get it right. In Ohio, they got a Good Samaritan law, where if Timmy's down the well or you're on the highway and your car's on fire and I rip your damn foot off getting you out of there, you can't sue me.
Right. Yeah, those exist, in play. But the thing is, that's just how it should be.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's implied consent. If I'm in deep doo-doo, pull me out.
Yeah. Captain just has a problem with the term implied consent, not necessarily the concept. So if you find a better term, right, then we would have the concept with a better term.
I feel like, this Good Samaritan law that you speak of, shouldn't have needed to be written because it just should be common sense that's how you treat a person who tried to save your ass. But then if there is we live in a time where there is this evil organization, this institution that we call government, and they rule the entire globe now, not just the U.S., but everywhere is claimed by a government. The entire earth has been claimed. We live in a place where, so let's say that, like you're saying, every now and again, they get something right and they have this good. Why doesn't every place have that?
So, I want to throw out another concept.
That's because the country is run by litigators. They're all lawyers, and they all got three hands. Oh, on this hand and on this hand, but on the other hand, take one of them. Quit patting me on the back and stick it up your where. But anyway, yeah, that's my thoughts for the night, dudes.
One of the things that they always say about the government's formation of laws, right, at least, common law in the early days, was not that the government created the laws, but the government codified laws that were then discovered, right? Like people discover that this should be a thing, and the government then just codifies it to enshrine it in that geographic region, right? So if Good Samaritan laws exist naturally, and then the government goes like, well, that should be a thing, and they just codify it, is it really that big of a deal that they codified something?
That sounds all fine and good, Richie Rich, but that's not how it actually works. Because there is show me a government on planet Earth that has that for a process of their lawmaking. They don't. Show me a government that has anything that resembles a process of removing laws that are no longer relevant to anybody for any reason, any way, shape, or form. They don't. Nobody has any of those because they never take laws off the books.
Okay.
So, yeah.
But I mean, again, theoretically, that's how British common law started, right? Like people discovered things that should be and then wrote it down.
Sure.
And so if you go like, wow, it should be okay for you to save someone's life and they shouldn't be able to do anything to you because you were acting in good faith, right? We should write that one down because it exists anyway. It's just, code like the Second Amendment people, right? You're not granted the right to bear arms by the government. They just recognize that you already had the right to defend yourself and codified it.
Right. And so, but by having the organization codify something that should just be an expectation is the reason why people believe that governments grant you rights.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Okay.
Major?
No, I'm good. Peace out, guys.
Have a good night. Thanks for the call. All right. We were going to talk about something that Nikki brought in.
Psychedelic soap.
Man.
Kind of.
I'm never taking a bath again.
I might be taking more of them. Who knows?
Dr. Bronner's, the soap company, dips into psychedelics under the leadership of the founder's grandsons.
Okay, wait a minute. Before you even start.
Okay.
So, psychedelic soap. I just have this image in my mind that I'm going to open, I usually use something like Irish Spring or whatever.
Me
so
too.
It's usually a green bar, right? So I imagine opening the soap and it's going to be like this swirled, like maybe a Grateful Dead logo, something, tie-dye looking,
soap.
Maybe they got different varieties of, visuals going on.
No two bars the same.
No two bars the same. And then, like, when you rub yourself down with the soap when you're in the tub or whatever, it seeps into your skin.
And then 20 minutes later.
And it gets you high, man. That's my initial thought based on the headline. Go ahead.
And you never get out of the shower because you always think you're already out of the shower because you're hallucinating.
So, under the leadership of the founder's grandsons, the company has become a big financial backer of the efforts to loosen government restrictions on illegal drugs. I think that's awesome.
Yep. So far, so good. I like it.
Yeah. Dr. Bronner's, the liquid soap company best known for its teeny font labels preaching brotherly love and world peace, would like you to consider the benefits of mind-altering drugs. The sentiment is prompted on limited edition soap bottles that sing the praises of psychedelic-assisted therapies, and through the trippy pronouncements of David Bronner's grandson, the company's founder, and one of its top executives, who is not shy about sharing details of his many hallucinogenic journeys. He says, let's face it, the world would be a far better place if more people experienced psychedelic medicines, said David, whose company in January became among the first in the United States to offer ketamine therapy as part of its employee health care coverage.
Nice. So more psychedelics in the soap, more coke back in the coke game.
We can talk more about these psychedelic soaps, man, when we come back. This is Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Jagruti Dave. Evacuation efforts in the southern Ukrainian city of Mariupol have failed for a second time. Both Ukraine and Russia have blamed each other for the collapse of a temporary ceasefire, whose aim was to get the city's more than 200,000 residents to safety. Authorities in Mariupol said people hiding from Russia's ongoing bombardment are rapidly running out of food and water. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky also warned Russian forces were preparing to strike Odessa, another city in the south. And in a video message, he once again appealed to world leaders to close the sky over Ukraine. Western allies remain reticent about a no-fly zone, fearing it could escalate tensions with Russia even further. But the United States is in talks with Poland about giving Ukraine Polish military aircraft to use. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken also said America is discussing a possible ban on Russian oil imports with its European allies. Russian authorities have repeatedly rejected accusations that it's targeting civilians. They're also continuing their crackdown on anti-war protesters. Independent monitoring group OVD Info said police had detained more than 4,300 people on Sunday. In Europe, hearings at the International Court of Justice at The Hague open on Monday with a case brought by Ukraine against Russia. And on the diplomatic front, French President Emmanuel Macron had another call with his Russian counterpart over the weekend. Rosie Burchard has more.
Macron's office said the call was mainly about the safety of nuclear plants, and that follows an attack on a major Ukrainian plant on Friday. Now, according to a French official, President Macron told President Putin that keeping up International Atomic Energy Agency safety standards at Chernobyl and other plants was essential. That official said President Putin insisted he doesn't intend to attack Ukrainian nuclear plants and agreed in principle to dialogue with the Atomic Energy Agency and Ukraine on the issue, but no agreement on stopping this conflict. On Tuesday, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson will also hold talks with the leaders of Hungary, Poland, the Czech Republic and Slovakia. Due to their proximity to Ukraine, these EU and NATO members are growing increasingly fearful for their own security, with a potentially deepening crisis right on their doorsteps. Now, the Ukraine conflict has sparked the biggest refugee crisis since the Second World War, according to the United Nations. The UN High Commissioner for Refugees, Filippo Grandi, tweeted more than 1.5 million refugees from Ukraine have crossed into neighbouring countries in 10 days. The majority have crossed into Poland, others have escaped through Slovakia, Hungary and northern Romania. According to UN estimates, more than 4 million people could become refugees, while 12 million people inside Ukraine may need humanitarian aid in the coming months. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
This will be the biggest humanitarian crisis in Europe since the Yugoslav wars and perhaps even World War II.
Amnesty International's Europe director Niels Musinjek, who spent the weekend urging countries in Western Europe to open their doors to refugees from Ukraine. More than 1.5 million people have already fled, with their countrymen still clamouring for safe passage out of the path of Russia's invasion.
The figures now are climbing very rapidly and are likely to reach significantly larger numbers than we see today. And everybody has to do a part here, and it's going to need a collective effort on the part of every European country, and everybody can help. This is not going to be a short-term crisis. This will be a long-term crisis. Even if the conflict ends today, the needs will be huge for a long time going forward. And the key is to sustain that solidarity, sustain that welcome, sustain that support.
Tiny Moldova has taken more than 200,000 people already and is warning its economy cannot support them. Poland said this weekend more than 900,000 Ukrainians have already crossed its border. Western Europe thought it had seen a migrant crisis arising out of the wars in Iraq, Syria and Afghanistan. The UN is warning it needs to get ready to cut through red tape, open its doors and now save Ukrainians who are also fleeing. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
The main headlines again. Evacuations in the southern Ukrainian city of Mariupol have failed for a second time. In Europe, hearings at the International Court of Justice at The Hague open on Monday with a case brought by Ukraine against Russia. And the Ukraine conflict has sparked the biggest refugee crisis since the Second World War, according to the United Nations. And that is the latest from Feature Story News. I'm Jagruti Dave in Washington.
U.S. presidents often take credit for solving complex issues with many moving parts, whether they deserve that credit or not. But how much impact can a sitting president really have on the tides? We all know that presidents like to take credit for the undulations of the briny deep, when it suits them, that is, and we Americans are quick to blame whoever is in power for the multitudinous seas. During Eisenhower's administration in the 1950s, citizens took to the streets to protest his inability to harness the unruly waves, but Ike shifted blame for the tides that year onto a heron that had recently been born with a raven's head. But the truth is, when a president is in office, there's only so much he can do. Sure, the president can bring an amulet with the Eye of Horus to the top of the tallest peak, or spread lamb's blood on the base of an elm tree during a lunar eclipse. In reality, it's hard for anyone to know with true certainty how the tides will play out under any administration. For The Onion, I'm Eliza Hayes.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
603-283-6160. That's the phone number here in the studio. If you would like to join us, we are here 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. So some radio stations will play us when we're not live, right? They'll do, some won't even play the full 3 hours. A couple of them, they'll play like 2 hours or 1 hour. When they, need some filler or whatever. So you might be hearing this, and it might not be live. But if you want to call and get on the air, call between 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. Eastern. Most of you are hearing us live, so you don't have to worry about that. But if you're not, or maybe you're listening to our podcast, which you can find over at freetalklive.com or your favorite podcatcher and that kind of a thing. Maybe you're watching us on Odyssey over at video.freetalklive.com. So in the studio, it's myself, the captain.
Nikki.
And Richie Rich.
What were we talking about?
Psychedelic soaps.
Man. And so, was I partially correct that, they come in tie-dyed colors and Grateful Dead stamps on it? No?
No.
Okay. Doesn't even sound like there's psychedelics in there. Yeah. Just fancy words on the bottle of normal soap.
Nope.
Are you going to start like a multi-level marketing, a psychedelic Amway, man?
You'd have to start
that's a great idea. Maybe not multi-level marketing, but...
Why not? You'd be at like the top of the pyramid at this point.
Right? Yeah, I know. If I'm the CEO.
This is the best time.
I am the CEO.
Everyone is my downline.
Yes. That's the best. The best time to get into multi-level marketing is when you create it yourself.
The whole world is my downline.
So.
Go ahead.
So Dr. Bronner's soap has a role in one of the country's biggest financial supporters of the efforts to win mainstream acceptance of psychedelics and to loosen government restrictions on all illegal drugs. Since 2015, Mr. Bronner's Magic Soap, yes, that is the official name of the company, has donated more than $23 million to drug advocacy and research organizations.
Wait, it was called Magic Soap before the psychedelics?
Yes.
Wow.
But we really don't know when the psychedelics came into play. The original founders, this is just discussing his grandsons that now run the company, but one would assume that he was probably taking some sort of...
Wait a minute. So I have a theory, and my imagination's pretty good here. I think I know how this was invented. Somebody had a sheet of acid or a partial sheet, a small sliver, right? And they left it on top of the soap when they were in the shower. And you know how the shower gets kind of steamy and hot or whatever, and like the paper melted to the soap. And then the next day, the guy went to take a shower, and he grabs the bar of soap, and he rubs the acid all over himself.
Who leaves their acid on a bar of soap in the shower?
Hey, you do a lot of things.
No
Dude,
judgment.
Have you never done anything weird when you were high?
No. Never been high.
I think you're a liar.
I mean, unless you're counting like the nitrous in the dentist chair.
I do count that.
Okay.
You've been high.
It's pretty fun.
Okay.
Have you never had an adrenaline rush?
Oh, I mean, okay.
Have you ever eaten sugar?
Okay.
Yeah.
If that's what we're going with,
You
sure.
drink coffee?
Like 1 cup a week.
You ever like you ever drink enough to like get the jitters?
Not enough to get the jitters.
Okay.
That's, I mean, compared to like being high on real drugs, though, that's pretty
Real
like,
drugs.
you know, that's
Yeah.
pretty
You guys
low,
are- you guys are-
low level.
All right.
You guys are
highness.
pushing the definition of high, trying to get me to
Richie
admit
Rich
something.
is a goody good. Richie Rich is a goody good.
Whatever.
Do you ever do caffeine, man?
Have you ever had sugar?
Well, I always
Do you
like...
ever breathe too deeply and hyperventilate, man?
You ever stand up too quickly, man? Really get a rush.
I always like to point out that like sugar and caffeine are technically like really, really
They totally
addictive
are, yeah.
drugs.
Especially if you mix them. I don't use
Nice
sugar in my
coffee,
coffee
like
now,
a really
but like,
sweet coffee.
Yeah.
But the thing that the government likes to use on why drugs are bad is because they're addictive and they make, you know, bad things happen and whatever. But compared to compared to like LSD and mushrooms and pot, sugar and caffeine is way worse. Not only on like addictiveness levels, but also just the negative effects that it has health-wise on people.
It's probably the lack of negative externalities, right? Like no one gets on a sugar rush and forgets where they are.
Yeah, or like people, you're not going to like rob somebody's house but you're not going to do that for like LSD or mushrooms or weed.
Understood.
Maybe like heroin or meth, but
I have sat in the circle and not participated while friends did like salvia, because for a while that was...
salvia is like different story.
Well, but it was legal in a lot of places for a long time.
But then like just because it's legal doesn't mean it's not going to make you go tweaky bananas.
Right. So I watched them go like tweaky bananas for like all of 3 minutes.
And it's scary.
Yeah, salvia doesn't last very long. I've done it.
Understood.
That's not a good 3 minutes.
You don't get that effect by taking too many spoonfuls of sugar. In fact, it helps the medicine go down.
So says the song. Nobody's wrote a song that I'm aware of about salvia. Now, salvia, you have to pay attention to if you're out there doing drugs, people. Here's a pro tip from the captain. And I'm not a drug advice expert, nor do I play one on the radio. But with salvia, you have to watch the X factor, and by the X factor, salvia is rated by how many times potency it is.
Oh, not the like talent show?
Right. Yes.
X Factor is great on salvia.
3.5 stars. No, that's Star Search. Sorry, Ed McMahon. Anyway, that's my Ed McMahon laugh. Yeah, that's right. Worked on that for years, only to premiere it here on Free Talk Live.
I feel honored.
You should. Here on, what is it, March 6th, 2022?
On the Sunday show, no less.
I'm going to write that down. I'm writing this date down.
Anyway.
Celebrate it every March 6th.
1X salvia, pretty mild, pretty fun. 10X salvia, not mild at all, not very fun.
Wee-oo.
So I've been told. I'm holding up air quotes for those of you who aren't watching us over at video.freetalklive.com.
This is not medical advice on Free Talk Live.
And salvia still is legal in a bunch of places.
Okay.
There's a couple of places that it's, they're like, no. But it's a part of the sage family, so it's naturally occurring. It's a plant. It grows in the same way marijuana.
I'm not saying anything's
does
wrong with
and all
it.
that kind of
I'm
stuff.
just saying you don't get that effect from 17 cups of coffee.
You do if you drop some acid in it.
Okay. Same one that you left on your soap? Just leaving acid tabs all over the place?
I mean,
I just put one here.
Some
put one
people
here.
are wealthy in different ways, man.
Okay.
So have we talked about this soap at all?
Well, it's not really about the soap. It's more about the company.
Okay.
So when it comes to corporate philanthropy, you'll be hard-pressed to find another company with the courage to publicly back an end to the war on drugs, said Rick Doblin, who runs the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, a research and advocacy group. It has received nearly $6 million from Dr. Bronner's, with an additional $1 million pledged for each of the next 5 years.
Okay.
So that's pretty significant. No other soap companies are doing this, so.
Do they end the last sentence with comma, man?
No, but they should have.
I mean, I would have put that in the title myself, the headline. I've been like, blah, 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 Dr. Bonner's soap company dips into the psychedelics.
Man.
For social advocacy from a corporation, support it, right? They're looking to get restrictions removed so that people can take medicine.
I think that's awesome.
I wonder, too, if, topicals, I know there's been a whole bunch of recent movement on things like microdosing different psychedelic drugs to aid with, PTSD and trauma and that kind of stuff. And I wonder if topicals like this, aren't going to see sort of a boom in that respect.
It could be. I took, what's the THC or whatever? Is that the one? Okay. I had,
I don't know. The one what?
Weed?
Yeah. Well, there's THC and there's...
CBD?
Yeah. I had
the oil or something?
I did CBD oil for pain relief after my accident several years ago. And then I also got some topical THC cream.
Yeah.
Also for pain relief. And it was magical at first, but it didn't last very long.
So you have been high.
But I haven't been high. The pain in my knee went away. And that was it. Yeah, magical.
Your knee got high.
Sure. But I wasn't high. I wasn't in an altered state of mind or consciousness. And then after, 2 weeks, it was done. It didn't work anymore.
For no reason at all, They Might Be Giants song, The Statue Got Me High, just popped into my head. 603-283-6160. More Free Talk Live is coming up.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
When Monster Hunter International discovers one of Isaac Newton's wardstones being auctioned off, they decide to steal it and use it to destroy the Chaos God once and for all. But a mysterious thief upends their plan, and it soon becomes a race against time as something much older and infinitely more evil awakens in the jungles of South America. Monster Hunter Bloodlines by New York Times bestselling author Larry Correia and Baen Books. Visit monsterhunternation.com for more.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better, too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless free market non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
If you're looking for work, the person you are applying to is probably so swamped with applicants that he or she is tough to reach. So call early in the day, before 8 a.m., before the palace guards arrive. You'll need your prospect's direct number, and here's a sneaky way to get it. Suppose the company's main number is 555-5000. You should call 555-5012. When someone says, "Good morning, Pam Johnson," you should innocently say, "Oops, somebody here must have written this down wrong. I was calling for Tom Frederick. What's his direct number?" If the very next thing you hear isn't Pam giving you Tom's number, it may be, "Good morning, Tom Frederick." For more tips for job seekers and getting better results in all your day-to-day communication, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
I just have to say that Dr. Pepper is an independent bottler company owned by neither Coke nor Pepsi.
Okay. They're usually with the fountain machines.
According to the magic rectangle in front of me. This is Free Talk Live, in case the listeners are wondering what they're listening to, why we're talking about Dr. Pepper. We were trying to settle a thing. I agree with you. I used to think they were Coke products as well. I prefer my soft drinks highly carbonated. And generally that means Coke products over Pepsi products.
I'm a Pepsi guy.
Really? So you like less carbonation?
I like Pepsi.
Right. Well, Pepsi and all Pepsi products have less carbonation. Okay. That's what makes them sort of, that's their trademark.
Okay.
I don't want to call it a flavor. Carbonation isn't a flavor, but, they have that going for. I like to belch a lot. And in fact, growing up, me and my siblings and my cousins or whatever, whenever we'd get a soft drink, we would chug them and then see who could have the longest and loudest belch from chugging these soft drinks. And so the higher carbonation, of course, gave you better belch. And that's how I developed my affinity for the higher carbonated products. I also prefer higher carbonated beer than lower carbonated beer when I drink beer, because it gives better belch. And I love belching. It's just good. It just feels good.
Carbonation almost killed me the other day, or so I thought. It literally felt like I was having a heart attack. Obviously, I don't know what that feels like. But I think I got really bad heartburn for the first time because I drank it too quick, and I don't know, something happened. But I was like, Matt thought I was dying. I was like on the floor being super dramatic, like, ah! And he was like, should I call 911? So.
Wow.
Yeah, it was very dramatic.
But you're okay?
It was just gas.
Yeah, it was okay. Like, literally, it's just gas.
You're not
2 seconds later, I was like, oh, I'm fine. Like, what was that?
You don't have one of those in front of you right now, do you? You didn't bring it into the studio, hopefully?
No.
Okay.
But if I start screaming for realsies, that might be why.
I don't need nobody dying. I don't need anybody dying.
I know.
Are you giving us consent to resuscitate?
Sure, if you guys know how to.
I'm technically CPR certified, so there.
Yeah, you're certifiable, right?
Seriously, CPR certified.
What were we talking about? Who cares?
Pepper?
Let's go to the phones. We've got Raul calling from Maine. Raul, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yeah, have you guys heard about the One America life insurance company that they're saying that there's a 40% increase in the death rate in 18 to 64 years old in the United States, and it's just an astronomical figure. They said if it was 10%, it would be like a 1 in 200-year event, and 40% increase out of nowhere. And it's not from COVID either.
We just had a pandemic, so
is it possible that it's related to baby boomers dying because they're the largest population age group happens to be in that same age group?
No, well, it's probably more. Well, I've seen this Jay Wilderness on. He does YouTube compilations of sports figures that are dying on the field all over, like Europe and Africa. Have you seen any of those? Where
I haven't seen those myself, but I've heard the stories of it, and I'm just looking at
the conspiracy theories. It's tied into the vaccine,
right? I'm just looking at an article here from the Desert Review, just the first result that popped up. Life insurance deaths are up 40%. According to Dr. Robert Malone's chilling analysis. So it's Dr. Robert Malone, who is known amongst libertarian circles. He says that because it comes from One America Life Insurance Company. The CEO addressed the life insurance industry, and he says it's industry-wide. It isn't Dr. Malone. It's the life insurance companies are saying this. Sure. It says, according to the CEO of One America, a national life insurance corporation headquartered in Indiana, deaths are up 40% in the third quarter of 2021. These deaths are primarily non-COVID deaths among workers aged 18 to 64.
Not surprised.
Yeah.
You're not surprised?
I kind of said this was going to happen.
Well, okay. I'm curious, both of you. Raul, why do you think that there has been this increase if this report is true?
Well, I think it might have something to do with what's in the vaccines that aren't vaccines. How about graphene hydroxide? I don't know if you've ever, they're like graphene nano razor blades that are being injected into us, and it's cutting up our veins and our hearts. And, there was something a little while ago about people, everybody can give a shot now. I couldn't believe it. Yeah. It's not just doctors, and if you get that in your vein, it's circulating through your system. And if that's really what's in there, it's just cutting you up and, you die.
Nikki was over here nodding in approval to your, ingredients. But go ahead, Nikki.
As far as it's an intramuscular injection, so you're going to probably inject it into like your upper arm deltoid muscle, which would be pretty hard to hit a vein. So I don't necessarily think that that's the thing. Either way, it's an IM injection and it's going to get sucked into your cardiovascular system. So I think either way, no matter where you're injecting this thing, it's going to get into circulation. And,
but it's like a time bomb.
Yeah. And I do agree with what you're saying.
Vein, you're gonna die instantly, and most of the deaths, the 26,000 or whatever it is that are reported to the CDC through the VARs, they're like almost instantly after they get a shot, they're dying. That the largest amount of people are dying right away. And I know in Maine, you're not considered fully vaxxed until 2 weeks after your second shot. So if you die before that, they saying you're unvaccinated and you're dying.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like it's a way that they kind of hide the numbers and move the numbers around. But and there's a doctor in Austria, Dr. Nowak. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. Noack.
Yeah, I have.
Mm-hmm.
I watched him get busted by the cops on a live video that he was doing, and a couple of days later he's dead. And he's like one of the foremost experts in this nano graphene technology. And he's the one that blew the whistle on this. And there's other people around the world that are finding stuff in the vaccines. And keep in mind, they don't have to put it in all of them. That'd be kind of stupid because then everybody would die so quick. They could put saline in some of them and this other stuff in in other ones that, like, it's just this Jay Wilderness. He's on his fourth compilation of these athletes. These are our healthiest people that are just dying right on the field because they're pumping their blood really fast, and boom, there we go. I mean, that explains a lot. And now they even want pharmacists to be able to give the shots. I mean, this is like crazy. And when you realize who all is tied in, it's like this cult that is controlling all this, that they don't mind killing people.
I'll give you this. They certainly have increased the number and type of people that can, give you an injection. And thank you for the call, by the way. I was freaked out when I first heard when they were rolling out these, as the caller said, non-vaccine vaccines, when they were having military personnel inject you. And I'm talking about like National Guard types. I'm not talking about medical types.
I want to hear a little bit more about what Nikki has to say, because she was also shaking her head quite a bit on that. 603-283-6160. We can talk more about that here on Free Talk Live. Coming up.
Free Talk Live.
If I were a parent, and I am not, Mark, you are, I am not, but if I were a parent, then I would be teaching my kids the difference between right and wrong based on whether or not people get hurt, not whether or not some elected official has written some words down on a piece of paper and deemed something to be illegal. There have been so many things over the history of time that have been labeled as illegal.
It's legal. It was legal to shoot engines in this country. Did that make it right? Legal and illegal, right and wrong, these things do not correspond here in America.
They rarely correspond as a matter of fact.
Anywhere.
Yeah. Now, there are some things that are illegal that are absolutely wrong, like murder or arson or destruction of property or
However,
stealing.
It's also illegal to not pay taxes to the federal government. Is that wrong? Absolutely not.
That's
it is
heroic.
Right to keep the money that you earn.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Jagruti Dave. Evacuation efforts in the southern Ukrainian city of Mariupol have failed for a second time. Both Ukraine and Russia have blamed each other for the collapse of a temporary ceasefire, whose aim was to get the city's more than 200,000 residents to safety. Authorities in Mariupol said people hiding from Russia's ongoing bombardment are rapidly running out of food and water. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky also warned Russian forces were preparing to strike Odessa, another city in the south. And in a video message, he once again appealed to world leaders to close the sky over Ukraine. Western allies remain reticent about a no-fly zone, fearing it could escalate tensions with Russia even further. But the United States is in talks with Poland about giving Ukraine Polish military aircraft to use. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken also said America is discussing a possible ban on Russian oil imports with its European allies. Russian authorities have repeatedly rejected accusations that it's targeting civilians. They're also continuing their crackdown on anti-war protesters. Independent monitoring group OVD Info said police had detained more than 4,300 people on Sunday. In Europe, hearings at the International Court of Justice at The Hague open on Monday with a case brought by Ukraine against Russia. And on the diplomatic front, French President Emmanuel Macron had another call with his Russian counterpart over the weekend. Rosie Burchard has more.
Macron's office said the call was mainly about the safety of nuclear plants, and that follows an attack on a major Ukrainian plant on Friday. Now, according to a French official, President Macron told President Putin that keeping up International Atomic Energy Agency safety standards at Chernobyl and other plants was essential. That official said President Putin insisted he doesn't intend to attack Ukrainian nuclear plants and agreed in principle to dialogue with the Atomic Energy Agency and Ukraine on the issue, but no agreement on stopping this conflict. On Tuesday, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson will also hold talks with the leaders of Hungary, Poland, the Czech Republic and Slovakia. Due to their proximity to Ukraine, these EU and NATO members are growing increasingly fearful for their own security, with a potentially deepening crisis right on their doorsteps.
Now, the Ukraine conflict has sparked the biggest refugee crisis since the Second World War, according to the United Nations. The UN High Commissioner for Refugees, Filippo Grandi, tweeted more than 1.5 million refugees from Ukraine have crossed into neighbouring countries in 10 days. The majority have crossed into Poland, that's more than 800,000 people. Others have escaped through Slovakia, Hungary and northern Romania. According to UN estimates, more than 4 million people could become refugees. while 12 million people inside Ukraine may need humanitarian aid in the coming months. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
(603-283-6160) is the number here at Free Talk Live. We are a live call-in radio talk program where you can bring up any topic. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the captain,
Nikki,
and Rich.
You can join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 27th through July 3rd for the 6th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which did sell out for the first time in 2021. Fork Fest takes place the week after Pork Fest, but Fork Fest is decentralized, which means there's no ticket cost and there's no one in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 27th through July 3rd. There's no better place to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving folks gathering in the Shire. You can find out more at the unofficial website, forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the Forkfest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the Forkfest Forum. Links to those can be found at forkfest.party. Again, we hope to see you there, forkfest.party. Did you have any more to add about...
I do have one last thing about the psychedelic soaps. Our grandpa was all about shifting consciousness and opening hearts and minds, David said, pausing for cosmic effect and flashing a mischievous grin. He probably would have put LSD in his soaps. So, coming full circle to the LSD and the soaps.
All right. I do want to mention just a couple of other things here rather quickly. Speed round, some stuff that Richie Rich brought in from the Daily Caller. I assume you've read these.
Skimmed them.
Okay, all right. You have some cursory knowledge.
I cursory read them to see if they're going to be worth,
all right,
flushing out.
Judge sentences 70-year-old woman dubbed the serial stowaway after years of sneaking past airport security.
Legend.
Right? That's what I was thinking.
Definitely.
And how bad is airport security where the little old lady has been doing it for so long?
I know.
Just boarding planes.
I get harassed every time I go to Logan, so I don't know where she's flying.
She was sentenced to 3 years in prison.
Oh, that's
not cool. With a smile
cool.
on her face. Look at the mugshot.
Yeah, she's pretty happy about it. She does look pretty happy.
You finally caught me.
Marilyn Hartman, you are a legend. Also, what's this from Fox 5 New York? New Yorkers complaining about loud sex noises?
You lock people in their apartment, they're going to find something to do.
Right.
Walls in New York are thin.
That's true. Are they sure it wasn't just the cockroaches?
Oh, man.
I mean, they're asexual, though, so maybe not. Was that true?
I don't know.
I don't know much about cockroach.
I
try
never,
to as little as possible.
I've never seen cockroach porn, so I couldn't tell you. I don't know what their mating.
Well, that can be
rituals are.
arranged after the show.
I can rely on you for so many things, Nikki. What would we do without you? I have to mention from Reuters, more than 4,300 people have been detained at anti-war protests in Russia. Police detained more than 4,300 people on Sunday at Russia-wide protests against Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine, according to an independent protest monitoring group. Thousands of protesters chanted, "No to war" and "Shame on you," according to videos posted on social media.
Look at that. Citizens on the ground disagreeing with their government.
That's right. So, and I mentioned this because we talked a little bit on previous programs about how your television wants you to sort of Russia bad. And you shouldn't do that because it's wrong you're basically being prejudiced at that point.
And it's feeding into the war. It's feeding into this fear-mongering propaganda. And like you said, it's kind of being racist, which is all these people claim they're so against.
Well, but Europeans were also mean to American tourists when Bush was in office. So
I mean, it goes both ways. But then you got to look at stuff like freedom toast and freedom fries, right? This was France bad.
Yep.
Right. So the same thing's happening now. Recognize
Still got a
pattern.
French's mustard in my fridge.
Nice. Recognize the pattern. Recognize when you're wrong, and don't repeat the behavior. It's not that hard, people. Figure it out. I also want to talk just a brief second about this People's Convoy that's supposedly near D.C. From Zero Hedge, Capitol Beltway hit with delays as People's Convoy truck protest rolls in. At first, I was glad. I'm like, oh, finally, they've rolled in. What's going to happen next? And then I read on, and what I read was really, really disheartening.
Well, okay, what did you expect that Freedom Convoy to do in advance?
I don't know, but I at least hoped it would be like as captivating, if you will, as the Canadian one.
But Canada had like a nationwide mandate, right, that needed to be repealed. The United States did not.
The United States has plenty of stuff that needs to be repealed, including the organization of government itself.
Understood, but that's not the symbolism of the trucker convoy.
I didn't really have an expectation because, first and foremost, I feel like
and demand that Biden repealed the national mandate for vaccines that didn't exist.
I feel like political protests, generally result in not much, if anything at all.
Getting beaten up by the police?
Yeah, but, and like, you can network a little bit with other people that maybe are like, oh, we got to stop this crap from going on, that kind of a thing.
Easier to play spot the Fed there.
But here's the disheartening part. Quote, "We want to show the American people how large we are," Braze said. This guy named Braze was the
said the three truckers that showed up.
Yeah. "And we want to show our congressional leaders that we're serious. And we are here to negotiate."
Oh, God.
"We are here to talk. We are law-abiding. We are peaceful. We don't..." I like the peaceful part. "We don't want to shut anything down, and we're not coming downtown."
So then what's the point?
Yeah, what's the
All
point?
that, and your job's about to be replaced by automated trucks.
So you drove across the country from... Most of these people seem to have come from California, right? That's where it originated or whatever. Drove all the way across the country to do what exactly?
Concede.
To be the compliant and docile convoy.
That could have happened over the phone.
We have Zoom now.
What? Yeah.
COVID brought us Zoom.
They must have. Nobody told them.
They put the con in convoy. Apparently, all they're doing is driving around what's known as the Beltway, which is just the freeway surrounding Greater D.C.
Enjoy this minor inconvenience for liberty.
Is there even enough for a minor inconvenience, or is this traffic as usual?
I mean, it's just being in D.C. is a major inconvenience.
Just
so it's
D.C.'s existence is a major inconvenience.
So they don't really have to do much, I suppose.
That's true. That is true. So, yeah, docile and compliant. And then Richie Rich... Russian cats slapped with sanctions?
I thought that was funny and also brought to light the ludicrousness of the sanctions that are being placed on Russia for this Ukraine thing.
Felines owned by Russians have been banned from international competitions as punishment for Moscow's attack on the Ukraine.
Do people not realize that Russian citizens are not their government? Like, why are we punishing the people of Russia when they did nothing wrong? How does that make these people, how does that make everybody out there that wants to boycott everything from Russia better than Putin?
It's not even a doping scandal like you would expect around the Olympics time.
Right. The problem is, for those of you listening in listener land, the problem is that most folks equate geopolitics to sports. Right? They treat...
Our team.
Us team versus their team. We're playing in some sort of world competition, and we have to have the best team. We're the best team. We have our colors. We're the best team. And so if you're on this team and you're in their colors, then you're bad because we're better than you for reasons.
If you don't like the red, white, and blue of the Russian flag.
Right? Yeah. Or Puerto Rico. Right? What is it? Captain America is really Captain Puerto Rico because he's only got the 1 star. Right?
Yeah.
603-283-6160. Your calls and more coming up. This is Free Talk Live.
I've been told no in many different ways.
I give you an order and you're going to obey it.
Who told you to go this way? You can't do that and you have to leave here.
You cannot bring signs into the rally.
Walk with me. Well, I'm comfortable here, actually. Whoa, hey, who do you think you are? Excuse me.
There is no video and audio allowed in this office.
No, I have work today. This is...
You ain't gonna make it. Wait now.
Wait a minute.
Whoa.
Hey! Oh my God! Unbelievable!
Why are you running from me?
Because you're scared me.
Property.
What am I being detained for?
You're being served.
What is this?
You're being served.
What is this? Bureaucrats have a funny way of telling people no.
That's the sound of the men working on the chain.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
Tis the final segment of tonight's edition of Free Talk Live. And you know, that word, tis, I don't think it gets used enough.
It doesn't. Only like Christmas time.
It's true. I think tis time for us to use tis more often.
It's because you got to start it with the apostrophe, and who wants to start with an apostrophe?
Yeah, how do you capitalize that if you start like a paragraph or a sentence with tis?
I mean,
how does tis the season start?
With an apostrophe capital T.
Apostrophe capital T? Really? Yeah. I thought punctuation could not start a sentence.
Well, then you can't use the word tis.
Well, you have to be able to.
No, because
the English language is finicky anyway. So you know,
you can do whatever you want.
There, and there. There.
Just a happy little apostrophe at the beginning of the sentence.
It's fine.
Happy little
Just
tree.
enjoy it.
Let's go to Sarah in New Mexico calling. Sarah, you're on Free Talk Live.
Oh, yes. Thanks for the comedy value of you guys. It's really been fun listening to your show. And,
Well, thanks for your communist values as well. We appreciate that.
Yeah, it makes the show very interesting. Well, there is 3 postal men, those postal trucks who got robbed at gunpoint here, like 3 times in 1 month.
Okay,
like
now, wait, was the guy doing the robbing a former postal worker? Did he go postal on the post office?
Well, you know what? We don't know who. They have not even, I have heard nothing about it. They haven't caught these guys.
It's
so
the
they
UPS
have
crew.
They haven't even caught them at all. So, I mean, I'm just thinking they have pictures of them, but it's pathetic how New Mexico is. I mean, do they do this over there?
I don't know.
No.
Did FedEx, I thought the post office was like FedEx's turf. I don't understand. Somebody's trying to muscle in on their action.
Amazon.
Yeah, it's probably Amazon.
These are the regular post office. So they want to rob them. I think it's drug addicts that want to rob the packages and credit card information.
It's probably tax return checks at this point.
Oh.
If it's recent.
This was middle of February. I think it was the credit card that went out or something. But the laws here in New Mexico are just stupid. I mean, because
the laws everywhere are stupid, Sarah. So
unless they're codified by natural discoveries of ordinary people, we've covered this.
So I'm venting, to let people know. I want the postal office to get cameras on their cars.
That's not even going to happen. The trucks are like 40 years old.
Do something and carry weapons or something.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah,
I think
the turkey population will never survive this.
Have you tried writing a letter to the post office?
Well, they have that in San Antonio.
P.O. Box.
They have that's their headquarters. I've called them for, rummaging through my mailbox. I mean, they've just been they've stolen my mails and opened up my box.
Wait, is that a euphemism? They've been rummaging through your mailbox?
Well, I thought I left the thing open, but it's a very minor crime here in New Mexico. Yeah, so the person, I've talked to people in the San Antonio, that's where they handle it. And then one of the voice prompts is, okay, press number 3 if you're a postal carrier that got robbed.
Press 3? Really? That's fantastic. Yeah, that is fantastic. I wish I could have voiced that for them.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, how often does it happen? They have a button that you press, and if you're a consumer...
Press 4 for dog, 5 for turkey.
Yeah, press 4, so then they got these, but it's not considered anything like really important, and that's why I'm bringing
it's
up
mostly junk mail anyway.
Well, it is, but, they steal your identity, they steal your checks, So I'm just bringing it up that we got to help me out with toughening the rules in New Mexico. I mean, the laws are so lax.
We're trying to lighten up the rules all
Thanks
over the
for the call, Sarah. We appreciate it. If you're a postal worker that is disgruntled and armed, press 4.
Help will be with you shortly.
To sign for somebody else's package, press 5. That's all I got.
Okay.
That's all I got. I used to do phone voicing, so you may have heard my voice before. Those of you listening, I've done thousands of voicings for many different phone systems for many different businesses. In the past, and I'm sure I will do more in the future.
I just scream representative until I get a human. Representative! drive.
Sometimes they hang up. I've done that before, and they just hung up on me, and I was like, "Well, that's mean, robot."
I got drunk, and I was calling. I was waiting on hold for some call center, and I was in what I call the phone hell. Right, I was getting looped around back to a menu, and like what I wanted wasn't an option. And I said, "Speak to an agent." And my buddy was in the room. He goes, "Did you say speak to an Asian?" And I was like, "I don't know," and whatever I said didn't work. They're like, "I'm sorry, can you repeat that?" I'm like, "Speak to an Asian." They're like, "Please stand by while we transfer you to an agent."
Nice.
And I was like, "Well, I guess it worked."
I'm sorry,
dude.
we only have Indian people available.
And we were like, "Yeah, it worked, man." We were all celebratory about it. So apparently that works.
Getting a human on the phone is like one of the greatest joys.
Yeah,
it's tough nowadays.
Yeah, no, I get it.
I prefer the least amount of human contact possible with these call centers and these. Yeah,
I love talking to people on the phone.
No,
the robot's
don't.
never going to solve your problem.
They can't understand what I'm trying to say at all.
But I would rather have it all in writing than have it all in a conversation, so that when they don't do what it is they said they were going to do, I could go back and say, "Look, here, it's in writing," right? So I will open a ticket. I will, do. I will spend the time to get it in writing.
Weeks of back and forth emails.
It happens, man. But I get to do it on my terms. I can respond to their email on my time.
Okay.
Right when I'm ready to respond. I don't have to blah, 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 and you get into these, and like most of the time they don't even understand your situation when they tell you that they understand.
Yeah.
They're just coached to say that I know I've coached these people in how to do this. One of the jobs that I had,
repeat it back to me so I know you got it.
One of the jobs that I had was literally to put together processes for we'll call it a customer service / tech support call center, incubate all of the processes and procedures, and then farm it out to an outsourcer. So that was the entire job. So I went into the job knowing that I would lose the job at the end of the job. If I did a good job and I did my job right, I would work myself out of a job.
Too bad it wasn't a government job, and then you can just ask for more funds when you failed at it the first time.
Yeah, well, and then I'm just coming up with more excuses on why we failed to do the thing that we wanted to do.
Oh, we just need more money.
Well, if we only had more money, and we should keep the program around a lot longer. Let's just make it permanent instead of this temporary thing.
Why don't we make another program?
We need a program within the program. That's what we need. We need a meta program.
And a committee.
A committee about the program.
To
within
make decisions
the program,
about the
program.
Yes. Oh my God, I could go on. So we don't have very much time.
Like another 3 minutes or something.
Any final thoughts, you guys? None? Come on.
I'm just happy the turkeys are out of the road.
Now. I am a big fan of Dr. Demento. For those of you who may have grown up with Dr. Demento and listened to his radio show, the radio show has been off the air as far as broadcast radio for some time, but he still does a show. You can find him over at drdemento.com. This is an unpaid mention. I just happen to have grown up with Dr. Demento myself. That's how I discovered Weird Al. That's how I got into doing parody music, which you can find over at lordkickass.com. If you haven't visited there already. And he is still doing a show, but you have to pay for it, and it's online only.
Okay.
But it's still there. He still does the Funny Five, the Top Five. He'll still do subjects. There's some social media groups about him that Dr. Demento himself actually reads and will sometimes occasionally respond to people. So he is active on social media.
If you need filler, what's the chat room have to say?
Not much.
Oh, lame.
I've been kind of.
I thought that was like the go-to.
Yeah.
Have your chats read on air.
Somebody says Convoy is a scam. Russia Standard is the best vodka. I never really heard of insects being sexual. Media is complicit regardless. Yeah, I wonder how much stuff the U.S. is covering up by focusing on all this Ukraine stuff.
Yeah. A lot, probably. Actually, you know what I think they're covering up is Pfizer just released, or something got leaked, all of the side effects.
Big long list.
It's like giant Oh, how convenient. Now nobody's talking about COVID anymore. COVID has just disappeared.
It's
how
gigantic.
Convenient.
And a bunch of what they sent out was like placebo for the experiment.
Hey, we're out of time. Thank you for listening and tuning in. If you missed any of our program, find it over at freetalklive.com. It
was just getting good.
Thanks. Peace.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly